The U.S. dollar, bonds, and stocks are all getting killed. America's ride on the global gravy train is about to come to a screeching halt. Is heading for its best weekly gain since 2020, up nearly 7% this week alone. And the U.S. dollar is on pace for its worst week since 2022.
Controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing. Because right now, all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems. And if you take the people, the Palestinians, and move them around to different countries, and you have plenty of countries that will do that, and you really have a freedom zone. You call it the freedom zone, a free zone, a zone where people aren't going to be killed every day.
If you plan on traveling, we need your help to prevent delays and to prove your identity. Get a real ID. Starting May 7th, you will need a real ID to travel by air or to visit federal buildings in the United States. These IDs keep our country safe because they help prevent fraud and they enhance security. Please do your part to protect our country. Go today and don't delay.
Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. It's Friday, which means we're going to bring you this week's headline news stories. Oh my gosh, it's been a week. As a matter of fact, we covered a little bit of it on Wednesday, which would be Trump and the tariffs and the market crash and then the market boom and the price of gold and all the things. We're going to talk about that. We've got gold soaring and the dollar falling. So what does that mean for you guys? What does that mean for the future?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. And then we have Trump saying, I think it's time to move the Palestinians out. The Gaza Strip's going to be the biggest, the bestest,
Why
the
did
baddest.
you, Netanyahu? Why'd you give away the beachfront
What
property?
did you just say, Netanyahu?
Netanyahu.
It sounded like you said Netanyahu.
Netanyahu? Why'd you sell your beachfront property, Netanyahu?
Oh my gosh.
Why'd you do it, brother? I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it. You got to move them.
You're
You got to move the
definitely a
Palestinians out.
So
You got to move them out.
we just saw this clip.
We got to build our high rises, the sky
Christine
rises.
Nome.
What's up with
DHS.
her? You know the.
Robot woman.
I have gotten into a Twitter kerfuffle.
If we were to all of a sudden come on here with like Botoxed and then like plumpy lips that made it so we couldn't do our show. I don't even know how you
This
say
is how
plumpy lips.
this is how it would look. Seriously.
You gotta like, I don't even know how to do it. I feel like I look like an alien. No, you definitely look like an alien.
I look like Christine Nome right now.
We've shown you guys the side by side. And so many times we call out Christine Nome's, and listen, you want to do the Botox thing, do the daggone Botox thing.
Botox. When you get the squinty eyes, it's plastic surgery.
Well, right, exactly. She doesn't look like herself. I don't know what happened to aging gracefully, but apparently that's not an option anymore.
It's not an option. No, it's not.
This lady came to our yard sale today.
Oh yeah.
And we were talking about, of course, we were selling some of our Trump stuff. And of course, we were selling some of our Trump stuff. And of course, that opens it's a really good conversation starter for people.
Is it really?
Yeah. I mean, it's like they found a safe haven.
Oh, she's a Trumper?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
So we're talking about, how crazy things are, and she can't talk to her daughter because they're all, I can't say anything. I said, well, listen, we got a podcast. We can say
We're in
whatever we want.
Claremont County. We are the majority.
We're the Trump country.
Yeah.
Right.
So like the liberals hide around here.
They do, but what she was saying is she hides from her daughter. She just isn't allowed to say anything.
Yeah.
And I said, there's something wrong with my generation. And she says to me, what did she say? I think she said, well, I'm 59. And she goes, I don't know how close you are to that. like expecting me to say, yeah, pretty close to 59. There's nothing wrong with being 59. Apparently I look like I could be close to 59 in person. And so I just found that hilarious. So speak back to the Botox thing. I actually don't mind. You think I'm almost 59? That's all right. I don't care. I ain't got no problem with that. Apparently, though, people like Kristi Noem got a problem with that. They need people to think that they look 5 years old. Okay. And so I find it a little bit, I think the problem that I have with a Kristi Noem, she's been going down to the border. She's been doing these videos.
She wears...
She's dressed, she thinks that it's like dress up doll day where she goes. And it's like, and I don't have a problem. When we go and do events, we dress in dresses and put flowers in our hair.
Sure.
Like, but I'm not a governor, former governor turned DHS head. I'm just saying it feels weird, like she's coming out of a magazine, like not magazine like nice like Jackie O or even like Melania. Okay, Melania actually looks pretty fly when she goes places and she goes down to the border. There's just something about Kristi Noem, I don't know, it irks me, and the fact that she had an affair purportedly bothers me a little bit, and I find her very disingenuous. So anyway, that aside, this really doesn't have anything to do with Kristi Noem because it's not her fault. But the Real ID is going into effect May 7th. Leah had 8th, but it is the 7th. And I got a problem with that. You can't travel unless you're going to show them an ounce of blood or a Real ID. You know, you got to have your daggum birth certificate. You got to have a utility bill. I don't know what all it is, but you can't fly. You ain't flying. You ain't got that Real ID. You ain't going. Everybody's like, it's the mark of the beast. I'm not convinced it's not. I'm absolutely not. Okay, in the more serious news, though, yeah, exactly. Sherry says, I will not be getting the special ID. Neither will Leah and I. There was a very tragic helicopter crash in the Hudson River that killed 6 people. So we're going to talk about that. We have not had a chance to come to you guys with that this week, and it's really upsetting. And then, of course, we've got a little clip that you guys might find interesting and fun from John Rich, the country singer, where he is... talking about a story where he told Trump to stop talking about the jab. So we'll play a little clip of that for you guys. So we'll see. I like Leah's intro here. She says, if you're like me and haven't been to an amusement park in years, this week's market has more than made up for our lack of roller coaster. She put bemusement. I think she meant amusement, and I only got a chance to edit that in a couple of places. But bemusement means bewilderment, so maybe that also applies. Trump's tariff slammed the market, which reversed in historic...
purposeful
fashion. That's always go with that. After he announced a 90-day pause. China is still on the hook for $125. No. Why does it say $125, Leah? 125 what tariff?
Percent. It's been a long day.
Is that $1? 125% tariff and is doubling down. So there you go. There's the entrance. We're editing on the fly. Over there on resistancechicks.com, but the description itself is there. It's fine. It's $125 tariff. It's $125 tariff. And you know what's worse? I missed it when I was editing it quickly.
Maybe you don't want to hear my expert advice on tonight's
Yes, they
show.
want your expert advice.
You know what?
Everybody
Can we
always
just,
wants your
okay,
expert
listen,
advice.
can we just go to Kristi Noem? Because that I can do.
Okay.
Go to my Twitter.
Oh, wait, let me hang on.
No.
Well, there we are on Instagram. We have not been live on Instagram, except for one time just the other day. So that's super exciting. Hello, Instagrammies. That's what it looks like to me when I see you. Let me switch back here to the main screen and pull up all of Leah's tabs. Are they all up, Leah?
Yes.
All right. Let me get Kristi in
I
second.
spent yesterday in my free time on Twitter because 2 days ago, Eric Metaxas posted a picture of Kristi Noem again in another photo op. At this time, she had her shirt tucked in the front and untucked, and she's walking with ICE officials. And the way she does all of her photo ops is, listen, I throw on a little mascara and a little eyeshadow for you people. I just took my braids out, my French braids out, and here I am. And Kristi Noem, that's not okay for her because she has to, I don't know if her eyelashes are like permanently fake, but she has spiders on her eyelashes. Now, I don't care really if people put spiders on their eyelashes.
Is this what I'm supposed to have? Because I don't have
my
the video.
Profile.
Okay. Can I go there from here? Do you need this?
Just there you go. We're just going to kind of go over some of these things. We'll go scroll down and we'll start at the bottom. Just for first, the last Kristi Noem thingy. Okay, I think that's it. There's us. Okay.
Okay.
So this is what set off a firestorm, and I literally fought off, and I blocked a bunch of people. I said, basically, she's plastic and she's a woman in drag. Listen. Oh, no, she's not a woman. That's a man in drag is somebody who's pretending and cosplaying to be a woman. She is cosplaying to be a woman.
You're not calling her a man. What you're saying is she's still cosplaying to look like something.
Yes, she's cosplaying what a woman should look like by doing the things to her face and her body that a drag person would do that alter you in such a way that you were unrecognizable. Okay? So this is her little outfit that she's walking around in like a little teeny bopper. Okay? Now, I don't really have a big problem with this, but her hair is not long. So she has to walk around with hair extensions. That's not her hair. Just FYI, number one thing. Now keep going. Now she's doing these ice raids. Now, here's the thing. I have a farm. I do work. What I do not do is work with my hat on. And I hate this in the movies. Raise your hand if in the movies, they for some reason, I don't know if it's producers or women, they think that they look better, always look better with their hair down. Now, you do look nice, but in a TV shot, do your hair the way you would if you were running through the woods away from a bad guy or your in case scenario. You're not running with your hair flinging in the wind. You will find some scissors and cut it off before you let this hair get, because I'm going to tell you something. This hair gets in your face. It gets in your eyes. It gets all over the place. You only wear your hair down when you're not doing something. Okay, so she's not doing something. Okay, because she's got her hair down. Not only does she have it down, okay, I can handle it. She got it in the back or something. But she has it down. As a girl with long hair, I'm going to tell you something. This is not a hairstyle that you use when you're actually working because it's in the way. This is what I do when I'm trying to look nice and kind of go somewhere nice. Like you can put a little hat on, but this is not. So she's caught. These are what we call photo ops. Now keep going. There should be more. Now she's got her hair up. Finally, listen, if you have a weapon in your hands, you don't want to be G.I. Jane with your hair everywhere with the gun. Okay? So is there more with this one?
There's a video.
Okay. This is the worst.
Here we are with Marco and Brian today. They're letting me roll with them. We're going to go out and pick up somebody who I think is got charges of human trafficking. We earlier had an op that swept up somebody who was wanted for murder. So appreciate the good work that they do every day, and we appreciate them working to make America safe.
Okay. Pause. No.
This rant.
No. People have to see the picture while you rant because they have to take it all in. First of all, can I just point out one thing?
She's got a gun pointed to that guy's head.
Before that, that's the biggest thing.
I'm sorry.
Ding, ding, ding. Okay? She's going to go with them on a raid. She's not going up to the door with the gun. That's not her job. She's not she's the head of the DHS. I don't know. She's not deputized from what I understand. Okay. I don't think she's legally allowed to go up to somebody's house with a gun in her hand. She's not going up to somebody's house with a gun in her hand. This is a photo op with a gun in her hand, with a rifle in her hands. Okay. With the hair down. Now, if you are the head of DHS, you would like young women to be involved. You need to actually set an example, because now millions of girls are going to be like, I'm just going to go out there with my rifle, with my hair everywhere. You're going to blow somebody up. Okay? The one thing you have to do in the military is you got to get that hair out the way. You got to get up. You got to get out of the way. People going to be tripping on it, not just you. Your weapon's going to be tripping on it. Listen, with a man with a beard on his face, it moves with him, okay? But if a man's got this long, giant beard, he's going to get in the way. This woman's fake hair extensions. Now keep going. It's all fakey. Okay, not to mention the fact that she's probably on Ozempic because she didn't used to be. She has no legs. She has everyth's plumped into her lips. I don't know what's going on with her face. It's not the same face. It's not the same everything. She's a completely fake person, and she's a narcissist who's turning things that should be important into a photo op.
Okay, we played that one already. Is that it?
No, there's more. No, you go to the next one.
This one?
No, this is the next
this is
one.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's one. There's several. I'm not the only one.
You seen this picture? Let me explain to you how this is all cosplay. Number one, anyone that's ever been in combat, whether it's Marines, been an officer, or anything else like that, you would never wear a flak jacket like that. Sloppily put on. It's going to get snag on something if you try to breach a door or go through any kind of very high-intensity situation. Number two, what's going on with your ejection port there? Either means that there's a round-in chamber or you're just being slapped and keeping it open. Number three, you have a magazine inserted. That tells me you likely have a round-in chamber. And if you have a round-in chamber, the most important thing you have to always deal with dealing with weapons handling is you have to assume every weapon is loaded. And you're pointing that weapon directly at that guy's head to the left-hand side. So that is a problem, Secretary Noem. And number four, the bigger and biggest problem of all, stop deporting people without due process. You continue to deport innocent men and women that have rights to stay.
Pause that. Say they don't have the right to stay there, but it's still bad. It's still okay. Here we got another one.
Hey guys, Kristi Noem posted another ridiculous video of her pretending to be like fucking Universal Soldier this morning. And I noticed that the main character in this farce was this ridiculous Mall Ninja rifle that clearly is not the kind of thing anybody would ever actually use on any kind of operation. And I want to point out a few things that I noticed. Now, first and foremost, we're dealing with a weapon. We're not ready to shoot, so we got to make sure the magazine out, chamber clear, safety on. Okay, so we're good. Now, I got to mention that because she has a magazine in, dust cover open, pointing like this at the guy's head next to her. There's probably a round in the chamber. If you did that in any respectable military or police department, you would get in the deepest of deep shit. That's number one, and that's that first arrow you see coming off the muzzle. The second thing, the optics. Okay, so what we have here is we have a red dot and a 3x magnifier. That's what's on that weapon. And as you'll notice, they're close together. This is your primary sighting. This is how you acquire targets. And this will magnify it if you want to shoot something maybe farther away. But the main point is these have to be right next to each other because this has short eye relief, meaning if you're not right on it and close, it doesn't work. Now look at that rifle. She's got the red dot up here and this magnifier 6 inches back. You can never use that magnifier in that situation. And another thing, you see how these two are at the same height? That's because one has to see the other in order to work. If you look on that weapon, they're not at the same height. Okay, and now the final thing you'll see is a second red arrow pointing down. And this is why I wanted to point this out. If you notice here, what I have is a laser aiming module with an infrared laser and infrared light, so you can only see that with night vision, or a visible laser and a visible light that you can see with your normal eyes. Now, you need a way to activate that. And the way you do it is usually you're gonna have a pressure pad right here because you take your grip and you can turn that on and off. You can see that lighting up. Now, look at that weapon. There's no place to even put your fucking hand up here.
Sorry.
You cannot acquire the grip as you would need to shoot that.
I did not know.
That's why she's holding it like this underneath. Because this is just something that clearly what they did is they found some rifle laying around and they just threw a bunch of shit on it to try to make it look more tactical. But to anybody who's ever used a firearm knows that that thing is just a ridiculous atrocity.
So they literally just made it look cooler for her to wear. Okay? Now, Megyn Kelly has something to say. Even though they're both on Ozempic.
Hang on. We just froze.
They are the poster children, girls. You know what? It's our Friday show, isn't it? It's Spectrum, and we get slow internet on Fridays. And I went to call after, what is the Sunday show or the last Friday show?
The worst outliers we've ever done. It was actually the worst live stream we've ever done. That was on Monday.
It's night times. It's night times in Spectrum. I'm paying out the wazoo for internet that's not working. Snap.
It's just this specific window, so I might just have to close it down and let's see.
Okay, praise God.
Let's see if it's come back. There it is. Okay. I think we're back.
I don't really love Kristi Noem. My audience knows that. She lost me with the well, a few things, but really shooting the puppy in the face was ridiculous. And then the alleged affair with Corey Lewandowski, that's very bad. While she's parading herself as this family woman, and she came on the show and she really had me. She had me as this like family woman. And I read her book and then like just so many things. But anyway, I am past that. I am totally rooting for her as DHS secretary. But I wish she would stop this nonsense. It's not a job in which she should showcase her vanity. Right? It's a job in which she should just keep us safe. And she's doing a good job of that, but she's undermining it. I don't really.
So I will say this. I'm not a fan of Megyn Kelly anyway, either.
There's one more.
But I would say that Megyn Kelly, you want to do your Botox, you want to do your plastic surgery, you want to do your Ozempic and your hair extensions and all that.
Sitting down there in front of a microphone. And if Kristi Noem did that, that would be fine. That's not where she's at. I wouldn't begrudge
her that. Right, exactly.
Is that all? I think there was one more. Let me see. Keep going past our show. Going past our show. There. Oh, back up. There she is. One more time. One more Megyn Kelly. Up.
One more Megyn Kelly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stop trying to glamorize the mission and put yourself in the middle of it as you cosplay ICE agent, which you're not. I can't stand these photo ops, you guys. I think they diminish ICE. They diminish DHS, CPB. She's not an agent. She is an administrative policy person appointed by Trump because she was very loyal to him. Fine. But stop with the glam. I mean, she looks like I look right now, but she's out in the field with her gun being like, we're going to go kick some ass. No one wants you there. First of all, nobody ever wants the extra lady who doesn't actually belong. Stop trying.
At least Megyn Kelly was honest. She looked like she's not glam. She looks like I look. That was hilarious.
You know what? Sometimes sometimes the pop be like, yo, Kettle, you're black. Stop trying to pretend you are white. We are both black. Now get your little, glam self behind a microphone out of the field.
That's
now,
really funny.
then, not only is that the case, but now she's taking away our freedom as the face of anti-freedom chick. And
with the real ID.
With the real ID. Now, this was passed in 2005. I am just going to retweet this because I don't have it up yet. Okay. Or I think I have it up. Noem now, being the head of DHS, is finally going to get implemented what actually Biden and other people have been pushing off since 2005, which is the real ID. And we're going to talk about this and its implications. And I'm not getting one.
You know, it bothers me how
I'm not getting one
and cheery she is. Listen to this.
Hi, I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. If you plan on traveling, we need your help to prevent delays and to prove your identity. Get a real ID. Starting May 7th, you will need a real ID to travel by air or to visit federal buildings in the United States. These IDs keep our country safe because they help prevent fraud and they enhance security. Please do your part to protect our country. Go today and don't delay.
No, thank you. Won't be doing it.
I hate this.
Not gonna happen.
Now, what is the real ID? It is simply that you have to go to the DMV,
and get a federal identification card. That's what it is. It's a federal identification card. In short, it is every state issues very specific identification cards with different requirements. If you've seen identification cards from people all over the states, they look different. Some people have the solid white plastic. Some people have the glammy, shiny thing. Some DMVs and BMVs in different states still have the laminated, like our first driver's license with the picture where you can get it that day. There's all different kinds of ID because every state, that is something that they control because every state is its own country, essentially, in the United States. We're the United States. A federal ID essentially strips away your state citizenship and makes you solely and only and primarily a citizen of the United States, which is a problem because it's one step away of stripping away states' sovereignty and your individual sovereignty. And that is one of the reasons why it's wrong. There are other implications for why it's wrong as well, including the digital tracking that's involved in the quote unquote real ID. You are now part of this federal database that they are using to track the United States citizenry. So there's a whole host of reasons for why I am against it. I would love to hear in the chat why you guys are against it. I know our dentist, Dr. Sherry, says that she will not be getting the real ID, and I would imagine that many of you guys will not be getting it either. I'm super proud of you.
Yeah, so I brought up a couple videos.
Previously or just now?
No, just now on some freedom problems with the real ID. But you have to present, when you go get your driver's license, you have to either bring in a passport, which you have gotten with a birth certificate, or you have to bring in your birth certificate. Now you can't fly now with just a driver's license on May. You will need to bring a passport with you, which is stupid. Now you have to have two forms of identification or your birth certificate. There's a major problem with birth certificates, but let's see what some of these say. I haven't watched these, but
Well, it's already contributing to some of those long lines you've seen and heard about at the DMV. It's the new federal driver's license called the Real ID.
Not looking forward to this. One Downey woman says getting the Real ID has been a real pain. CBS 2's investigator Christine Lazar joins us now with what went wrong. Christine.
Well, it's always hard to go to the DMV, right?
Yeah. Yes.
No one really wants to do that. And now for some, it's getting even harder. Now, this viewer was prepared when she walked into the DMV. She had all the right documents to apply for the Real ID. Despite this, she needed our help to finally get the ball rolling.
Every day, yeah. I look at the mail every day.
For nearly 4 months, Diana Rodriguez of Downey has been waiting for a letter from the DMV. Last March, she made an appointment to go into the DMV to renew her license and get the new federally compliant Real ID. The first available appointment wasn't until May.
And I gave them all my paperwork. I passed the written test. They took a new picture.
Diana did everything right. She submitted her passport to prove her identity, a copy of her W-2 with her Social Security number, and a utility bill to verify her address. Did they tell you that you were missing anything?
No, they said I had everything I needed.
So you had reason to believe that you would just wait and it would come in the mail?
Yes.
So Diana waited and waited. June and July passed. By then, she grew worried because her temporary driver's license, which is basically a slip of paper, was expiring in August. She tried to make an appointment to go back to the DMV, but she couldn't get one until September. Then she tried to call the DMV.
I never spoke to anyone, but I was on hold for at least an hour. So I gave up.
So Diana had no choice but to walk in.
I waited approximately a half hour to 45 minutes before I even got into the building.
2 hours later, Diana said she was told to reapply. So she did. And then she waited again. More than a month passed. So you're now going on 6 months of dealing with this.
Yes.
So you've not gotten any answers as to what is going on.
They haven't told me anything.
Come 2020, Californians will need the Real ID
this is
in
an
order.
Old report, but still.
Yeah. Okay. So in that case, right, the birth certificate didn't work. Now you can play the one on like go to my history. If you don't have the some people running into issues getting a Real ID with their passports and that's
Welcome back. And so the Real ID requirement looks like it's finally going to happen. That's the updated driver's license or ID card with the little star on it.
It's an added security measure that you'll ultimately need to board a plane. Well, some people are running into issues getting that ID. Allison Gormley tells us what's the deal with why you might want to start preparing your paper trail now.
Cheryl Russell is back home again in Indiana.
Spent my whole life here until the year 2000.
But she needs a new ID to prove the move so she can vote this election.
It's not just a privilege, it's a responsibility.
So she and her daughter Kathy headed to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Russell opted to get a real ID since we'll all need it to board a plane beginning in May.
Mom had her real ID in Georgia. It was an active license until 2027.
At the BMV, Russell, who does not have a passport, learned that if your birth certificate does not match your current ID, you need a government document reflecting the name change. In Russell's case, it's a certified marriage license from 1973.
Over a half a century later, all of a sudden, I'm supposed to come up with that? No way.
Certified marriage licenses come from the clerk's office in the county where you got married. In her case, it's Marion County.
The supervisor told me that he hoped it would be within 30 days, but he couldn't guarantee anything.
And that wait would mean she cannot get an Indiana ID in time to vote.
That's very upsetting because I've earned the right to vote.
The Marion County Clerk's office told us they're in the process of digitizing marriage records that date back to 1820. That unintentionally held up some requests, and the clerk's office says it's now resolved. It's not just Russell having trouble proving a name change.
They may have gone by a middle name, but their birth certificate shows the first name, so they need to get that corrected.
Lawyer Andrea Sneeden with the Legal Aid Society said they're seeing more demand for help because of the real ID requirements.
The court wants to see the chain of documents and every name that you've gone by.
Sneeden said if you need assistance proving who you are, start gathering your birth certificate, marriage license, even a naturalization form.
Having those documents ready to give an attorney, it saves us a lot of time.
Helping Indiana residents plan for their future plane rides.
So that is one thing, and you can bring up the last and one more on like the there's a shorter one on the kind of legalities of it, real ID and your rights. But a lot of women who have changed their name through marriage, they can't just use a birth certificate to fly with. I don't know what the plan is for that.
Hello, thank you for joining me today. My name is Twyla Braze. I am president and co-founder of Citizens Council for Health Freedom. And today I'm not here to talk with you about COVID-19. I'm coming to you with Real ID. Now, some of you may wonder why an organization that focuses on health freedom would be concerned about Real ID. But we look at this card as a national ID card, and it will become a no card, no care card. So in other words, a national ID card that would become a single number for which all sorts of things, including your access to health care, it will be used for. So without this card, eventually, if enough people get it, without this card, the government could say you can't access healthcare services. So let me just tell you a little bit of history and tell you why I'm bringing this to your attention today. So the history of this is that in 2005, a few years after 9/11, Congress passed this law in the dead of the night, truly in the dead of the night. U.S. Senator Lamar Alexander called it a national ID card and warned against it, but the Congress went forward on a bill that was labeled tsunami. It was about tsunamis. So it was really very hidden. Well, then what happened is that the federal government issued regulations. The states saw the threat to their state driver's licenses and their constitutional rights, their 10th Amendment states' rights, and they started passing laws, many unanimously on a bipartisan basis against complying with the federal government's Real ID Act. And for many, many years, that's exactly where that stood. In 2007, 2008, 2009, state legislators said, yeah, no. We are not going to take the Real ID. It cannot be imposed here. The governor can't do it. The legislature can't do it. It can't happen. But then in late 2015, the Obama administration came up with a very clever idea. And so they started to announce that if you don't get the Real ID, you will not be able to fly. And they heralded this idea everywhere, and the media helped them. Yeah. And so the American people became very afraid that they would not be able to fly, and they put pressure on their state legislators, and their state legislators started to cave. And so one by one, legislators decided to comply with the Real ID law. However, most states have given people a right to have a standard driver's license instead. And so I want to tell you several things about the Real ID. One, you don't need a Real ID to fly. That's the first thing you need to know. You don't need one to fly. And I have right here from the Department of Homeland Security the actual language that says you don't need it to fly. Here you go. It's right here. It says DHS, that stands for the Department of Homeland Security, notes that individuals without a Real ID compliant document will still be able to enter federal facilities and board commercial aircrafts. So you can still fly. And you know that now if you have been to an airport and you have looked at one of their signs about Real ID, where they actually tell you that if you need a Real ID or other acceptable documents. That was not talked about during the 2 years where Real ID was being imposed state by state back in like 2016 and 2017. They didn't talk about that, but they're talking about that now because so many states are having a hard time putting the machinery into place to make the Real ID happen that they are very concerned that people will end up at the airport on October 1st of this year without a Real ID, and they won't be able to fly, and it will be a disaster at airports around the country. So they're actually telling the truth now that you can have other types of documentation. So I'm going to show you some of those other types of documentation. Here's a whole list from the Department of Homeland Security. There's an entire list. Now what most people will do is they'll get a passport or a passport card or perhaps an enhanced driver's license. Now you might be wondering why should you even be concerned about the Real ID? Oh, or maybe the first question is, why am I bringing it up? I'm bringing it up because there's a brand new campaign out of the Department of Homeland Security to get you to agree to the Real ID rather than a standard driver's license and using a passport to fly. So here's their campaign. It's called Be Your Real ID Self.
Unbelievable.
Be Your Real ID Self. This is the latest Homeland Security campaign to get you to take the Real ID instead of a standard driver's license. Now, I told you that states were concerned about states' rights, and so I'm just going to show you this letter from the Pennsylvania legislature to President Trump back in January 24th, 2017. Here you go. And I'll show you that bottom part. I'll read that to you. It says, opposition to the Federal Real ID Act in Pennsylvania has been based on the following concerns. And they have 4, but I'm only going to read the first one. And the first one is called states' rights. States have been the exclusive regulator of driver licensing and have instituted their own regulations and policies regarding the issuance of licenses and safety information and other aspects of transportation policy administration. Then they go on to talk about the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment establishes that, quote, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, end quote. And then they say this one sentence. By federalizing driver licensing, the Real ID Act usurps this power which has been reserved to the states. Well, with all the pressure from DHS and with all the pressure back then when they were saying you can't fly, even Pennsylvania has agreed to the Real ID Act, but that doesn't mean that you have to agree to have a Real ID. And this is why I'm bringing you this message now, because the push is on to get everybody to get a Real ID, and I have reasons why you should decide not to. And those include, not only is it a Real ID card, not only is it a violation of states' rights and therefore your individual rights, you have to understand that it was established by and designed by the federal government, and it has to be approved by the federal government. This truly is a national ID. We've never had one in this country. And the more people that choose to get a Real ID, the more likely it is that businesses and governments around the country will start to demand the Real ID. And then we will truly have a fully implemented national ID card in this country. The more people refuse to get the Real ID card, the more difficult it will be for them to require it for things like, I wrote a list here, banks, government, clinics, hospitals, business, hotels, buying a firearm, everything you could think of will eventually require the Real ID if enough people choose it. This is why you should not choose it. You can protect states' rights, individual rights, your privacy, your freedom, keep yourself from being tracked under this one national ID number. All of that you can do by choosing a standard driver's license, a standard identification card. Choose to not purchase the Real ID, which does tend to be more expensive in addition. So the last thing that I'm going to say about that is, yes, you can fly without it, and your freedom means, protecting your freedom means saying no to a Real ID. Oh, and I did forget one other thing. Here's what the law says. The law says that the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security has unilateral power to decide additional official purposes for which the card will be required. So right now it is federal buildings, flying on commercial aircraft, and nuclear facilities. But whoever happens to be in that position of Secretary of Homeland Security could decide. It needs to be used for medical care. It needs to be used to rent a car. It needs to be used to rent a hotel or to stay in a hotel. It needs to be used every time you go into the bank. That's what the law says. And when the states bow to the federal law, and if more and more people actually get a real ID card instead of a standard driver's license, that's where we'll get to. We'll get to this being required for every transaction, and then one number, one tracking number for everyone in this country. So I encourage you.
Okay, I encourage you not to get it, and I know it's a big deal to not go along with the flow. However, you know what I've decided? That Kristi Noem is a cosplay of, where is she? Where are you at, Palin? Sarah Palin. I thought I brought her up, but Sarah Palin is not happy with this. Let's see, where is Palin? Sarah Palin had tweeted out on Kristi Noem, and I said that Kristi Noem was. I take Sarah Palin over Kristi Noem any day. Sarah Palin is actually a real patriot. She really is. Let's see if I've got, or what? Evidently, existing ID requirements for American citizens just aren't adequate now. So Big Brother is forcing us through more hoops for the right to travel within our own country. Other administrations delayed this newfangled, burdensome real ID requirement. Are you curious why its implementation is imperative now, and who came up with this? And I said Noem is a fake version of the actual patriot Palin, who would not be implementing this right now. So, yeah, there we have it. That's the real ID. Any thoughts?
Yeah, actually, we've got over on Rumble. James says, I don't plan on flying anymore. That's well said. Jim says, yes, thank you, George Bush. Set up 9/11, attack Islam, and limit America's freedom. Sherry says, if they want security, they just need to start arresting criminals and actually punishing them. Good citizens shouldn't be harassed. She says, absolutely. As for banks, I have been keeping minimum and I need to pay bills. It's a slippery slope. James says the dictators are always working to be more able to control us all. Faith Gal says, Romans 12:2, I choose to be a nonconformist by transforming by renewing my mind. Well said. Sherry says our founding fathers would be really upset with our state of affairs. Faith Gal says she spelled her name wrong. It's Gnome, Gnome. That's so well said. Let me check over here on YouTube. Stuart the Brit
back
says,
at hi YouTube.
Yes, we're back on YouTube. Stuart the Brit says, why does America have this ID issue? The rest of the world sorted this out years ago. Don't you all just have federal IDs? I mean, anyway, like national IDs. That would be my question for you guys over in the UK. I feel like you guys already have national IDs. James says, these clowns never want to do anything to make our lives much easier.
Speaking of making your life not any easier, Michelle.
Leah.
Stamps, 78 cents.
What?
78 cents.
Oh my gosh.
What is this? $1 to send a letter?
When is this happening?
Soon. The U.S. Postal Service has proposed raising the price of forever stamps from 73 to 78 cents. I didn't even know it was 73 cents. The increase would, I just remember when I was a kid, 25 cents, and then when they yanked it up to 29.
Leah, I have bad news for you.
What?
I remember 19 cents. So I don't know.
Wow.
We're older than we think.
Wow. The
USPS. Raise your hand if you remember 19 cents.
The USPS says the hike is necessary for financial stability. They just keep raising the prices. That letter, CBS writes that DeJoy stepped down in March, the head of the USPS. He was there for 5 years. You got Doge over there. The deputy postmaster, Doug Tolino, is serving as interim chief. And they have issues. Looks like regulatory issues cost $50 billion, highlighting the U.S. Postal Service broken business model and $100 billion in past losses. I thought Doge was going to come in and like make it more efficient and cheaper.
So no. Doge goes in and this is what they do. They just need to figure out how they can make more money.
Mm-hmm.
Got a great idea. Just charge more money. They'll pay it.
No.
We'll make the post office great again. Just charge the people more money.
$25 to send a letter. California's disastrously run college financial aid program is filled with fake chat GPT students. And here's the scam. It's unclear the state of California has done what they've done after the disastrously run COVID-19 era unemployment scam. And that had billions of unaccounted for people getting payouts in the homeless industrial complex. Medicaid for all illegal aliens is draining the citizens there. Well, after enrolling at a community college, they're called these Pell runners, and they apply for a federal Pell grant. They will collect as much as $7,400, and then they vanish.
No.
As usual during COVID, paddleboarding alone, gathering with friends, and meeting in a classroom were verboten. But stealing from the state was a breeze. The people in charge of watching over the money, looking at you, Julie Sue and Gavin Newsom, crammed the money into one of those T-shirt guns and fired it in the general direction of those they thought might need it: prisoners, Nigerian princes, and fake students. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the federal government loosened some restrictions around financial aid, making it easier for students to prove they were eligible, and provided special one-time grants to help get them enrolled. Once these pandemic-era exceptions ended in 2023 and some classes returned to in-person, college officials say they expected fraud to subside. It hasn't. In January, the chancellor's office suspected 25% of college applicants were fraudulent. This is getting significantly worse. It spiked like crazy. So these fake students, and the colleges are not going to get funding for these fake students. So in 2023, librarian Heather Dodge started to notice something odd about the students who took her online research course at Berkeley. To connect with students and make the class more engaging, Dodge said she always began the course by asking students to submit a video introduction of themselves using their webcam or an iPhone. It was a very low bar, but I started noticing that there would be a handful of students that wouldn't submit the assignment in the first week. First, she would send them a message, and then if they still didn't respond, she'd drop them from the class. She wanted to seem inclusive, worrying about whether students were having tech problems. But her biggest issue was how her dropping enrollments would look to the the bean counters, who divvy up the money to schools. If they see I'm running a class that starts with 35 students and ends with 15, that looks terrible. As with California voter registration, voter rolls, and applying for free state money, many colleges don't independently verify a student's address or identity. Nobody checks. When the schools tried to give illegal aliens or kids in the foster system who had no ID a break, the bots figured it out.
Wow.
So in 2023, 3 women were indicted for using prisoners' names to qualify for student loans at California community colleges. They ran off with $1 million. No! Only one admitted guilt. The other 2 were freed until trial. There are no public reports that we can find about the other 2 women actually being penalized. And good luck if you want California to stop the stupid. 1 year ago, California adopted a program to pay community college students for their time in class and spent doing homework. No kidding. The taxpayers pay students in the pilot program a minimum wage between $16.50 and $20 an hour.
No.
Just to do your schoolwork and actually go to school. I'll do it. I will totally go to college for $20 an hour. Currently, I would. Yeah. California colleges have access to you know what? I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. California colleges have access to an online ID verification program, but they don't require students to use it. So there you go, California. Way to go. Way to go. Hey, we want some water, Mexico. Trump urges Mexico to honor the water treaty. Honor the water treaty. I want the water. I want all the water. I'm sucking it out of the Gulf of America. I want all the water. Or you're going to face some possible sanctions and more tariffs. President Donald Trump on Thursday threatened Mexico with possible sanctions and additional tariffs unless it delivers water to Texas as required by a 1944 water sharing treaty. Trump said that Mexico had violated the treaty under which it was required to deliver. I want delivery of the water.
1.75 million acre feet of water from the Rio Grande every 5 years.
Under the same treaty, the United States is also obligated to deliver 1.5 million acre feet of water from the Colorado River to Tijuana, Mexico. It's a trade, I guess. Mexico owes Texas 1.3 million acre-feet of water under the 1944 water treaty, but Mexico is unfortunately violating their treaty, he said on social media. Trump said that Mexico's failure to fulfill its treaty obligation hurts Texas farmers very, very badly. I guess citing the closure of Texas's sole sugar mill because of water issues. To address this, Trump said he had ordered the government to halt water shipments to Tijuana until Mexico complies. My Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins, is standing up for Texas farmers, and we will keep escalating the consequences, including tariffs and maybe sanctions, until Mexico honors the treaty and gives Texas the water they are owed. The president did not specify the sanctions, what would happen there. This development comes as Mexico already faces a 25% tariff over what the Trump administration regarded as it's just to curb some fentanyl coming up over the border there. So Mexico has also sent a proposal outlining short-term actions to resolve this water feud. It's a water gun fight. This has been a 3-year drought. And to the extent water is available, Mexico has been complying with the treaty. I'm confident that as other issues, make it rain, Mexico. Make it rain. The United States Department Bureau of Western, we have one of these. Okay, something new. The U.S. State Department's Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs. Okay, we got that.
I did not know.
I want to lead that one.
I did not know that.
Stated on March 21st that Mexico's continued shortfalls in its water deliveries under the treaty were decimating American agriculture. As of April 5th, Mexico has only delivered about half, not even half, about 512
acre-feet of water.
100,000. So the Texas lawmakers, Cornyn and Ted Cruz, introduced an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act requiring the state secretary to report to Congress annually whether Mexico fulfills its water sharing. So, give us your water, Mexico. I don't care if you got a drought, you got to make it rain. Speaking of making it rain, I don't know if it's going to be good news. I don't know if it's going to be sensational news. I don't know whatever's going to happen. But Tulsi Gabbard is dropping 2 bombshells. The NID director, Tulsi Gabbard, made a startling revelation during an open cabinet meeting Wednesday, announcing that she had evidence that electronic voting machines have been tampered with to manipulate the results of the U.S. elections.
Replay it?
Sure.
I've got a long list of things that we're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this. Election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
I don't know. She emphasized that the evidence shows that machines are vulnerable and have been vulnerable in the past. She told President Trump that the finding further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots. Wow, that just, could it be? And scrolling down, Director of National, she's also, the second bombshell is that major incoming file dump on the assassinations of Robert Kennedy Jr.'s dad and MLK.
And lastly, we've been scanning. I've had over 100 people working around the clock to scan the paper around RFK, Senator Robert F. Kennedy's assassination, as well as Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. These have been sitting in boxes in storage for decades. They have never been scanned or seen before. We'll have those ready to release here within the next few days.
That's great. Bobby, how do you feel about that? That's hitting,
I'm very gratified to hear.
That's hitting close to home, isn't it?
No
when you think, I'm thinking about Bobby when that statement's made.
I'm very grateful to you, Mr. President.
So this happened today, by the way, and there's another one I want you to play. This happened today. This was the meeting of, this was the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so Here we have Tulsi Gabbard talking about this again a little bit.
In other cases, they have been hidden with the hopes that no one would ever find them. Related to the Senator Kennedy assassination files, the MLK assassination files, unlike the JFK files, these have never been scanned. They've never been digitized. These are pieces of paper, hundreds and thousands of them, that have been sitting in boxes at the National Archives and Records Agency. So we've had over 100 people manually scanning every one of these pages, preparing them to fulfill what President Trump promised the American people: maximum transparency and the release of these files that have never been released publicly before. We're not stopping there. We know that not all of those documents have been turned over to the National Archives Agency, and so we've got teams out there going and searching in warehouses at the FBI, at the CIA, and other places to uncover related documents that for one reason or another were never turned over before. So President Trump is very serious, obviously, about working to achieve that maximum transparency. That transparency will allow us to bring about accountability around the Russia collusion hoax, for example. The more we dig, the more we find the extent of the seriousness and the intent of that whole operation was very consistent with what we found in Stalin's operation. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. It is disheartening to see these things, but it also provides us the opportunity to tell the American people the truth about what's been going on so that we can make sure we try to bring about an end to it and bring about that accountability.
I want to believe her.
I want to too, but I'm just not sure. You know, it's
Fool
fully
me
once
500 times, but I will be cautiously optimistic because optimism is awesome.
So let me read this question from Sherry because I think this is pertinent. Leah, if they determine that Trump really did win in 2020, will that change things?
Well, yeah. You don't know what it looked like, all mayhem. And I honestly don't think Trump would.
I don't think he'd do anything about it.
I don't think he'd let people know even.
No, I think he would let people know. I just don't think that there would be. I think he would just say it's water under the bridge.
I think it would
now
cause
we're fixing
too much
it.
havoc.
No, I think he would probably tell people. That's just my humble opinion.
Unless, dude, don't you think you're the conspiracy theorist that think he was in on it and all that jazz?
I don't think he was in on losing in 2020.
You don't?
No.
To make him the man of the people. For
no, I don't think. No, I don't think that at all. Where Edge of Time says, I support election integrity. That's awesome. James says, I love it. Trump doesn't mind jacking these jokers up. Jim says, she is staying in the office doing work. Pam Bondi has had daily Fox interviews. Sherry says, do you think that the fame is going to Pam's head? Yes, I do. Where Edge of Time says, I think we should have voting ID, no work, no excuse, or excuse me, voting, I don't know what you mean right there. I think you mean no work, no excuse, no exercise, our responsibility. Oh, voting ID, voting day. I think we should have a voting day. I get
Voting
that.
day.
No, I get that. 100%. Oh, where did we go? Did I just close that? Or I just shrunk it. Let me check over here on YouTube. Red says, I don't like Tulsi. I get it. I don't trust her either. And Lee and I have had conversations about this, especially recently.
Cautiously optimistic, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
So Stuart the Brit says, we do have a national ID numbers to get health care from the NHS. All other things, it's driving licenses or passport photo ID.
All right. Emmett, how do you say it? Dr. Oz, Mehmet Oz. I'm not a fan of his. But he's pressured into this, and I am happy about this. So we promise to bring you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Medicaid, this should already be a thing. No funding for gender reassignment surgeries, hormone treatment for minors. So he has said Medicaid funding, that's for the poorest of all poor. I'm so glad about this. He wrote state Medicaid directors to ensure that state Medicaid agencies are aware of growing evidence regarding certain procedures offered to children and to remind states of their responsibility to ensure that Medicaid payments are consistent with the quality of the care that covered. The services are provided in a manner consistent with the best interest of the recipients. And he said that these interventions can cause long-term and irreparable harm. I'm very excited about this. So that's a good. Now, this is stupid and crazy. How many of your kids, please say your kids aren't into Minecraft. So I guess I know very little about Minecraft, but I know that even Christians' parents let their kids play Minecraft because it's supposed to be about
just building worlds.
things, but it's not, because there's all kinds of little silly characters in there. Okay? All kinds. So these teenage boys are so excited. And
It's
if
been
you
turned
scroll
into
down,
a movie.
there's a particular character called Chicken Jockey. And when these children who are in the theaters, they saw or they see this character come on the screen, this is what happens next. And I believe that every parent should take their child back to the movie theater by their ear, and they're going to have to lick this place clean.
It's the latest rallying cry for millions of moviegoers.
Chicken jockey!
Those two little words sending teenage fans of a Minecraft movie into a frenzy, resulting in screaming, popcorn throwing, and soda flying through the air. In at least one case, the police have gotten involved, escorting some of the offenders out of theaters. So what is a chicken jockey? The official definition? A child zombie who rides a chicken, of course. This morning, that craze around chicken jockeys causing one movie theater in New Jersey to take matters into its own hands, instituting a new policy. Minors will now have to have a parent or responsible adult with them if they want to watch the film.
Chicken jockey!
This child has
Some are defending it as at least they're not playing video games at this moment. They're just in the theaters. Every single parent of every single one of the children, I don't care. This is one of those instances where this is, and I do not believe in collective punishment at all. But at this incident, this is one of those times when you're in school and you're like, so, half the class is acting up so that we're all not going to recess, right?
Yeah, but what are you talking about? What are you saying?
The doors are shut.
Oh, I get it.
No one is leaving.
Yeah.
Until it's cleaned up. Even if the kids didn't throw the popcorn. Even if the kids, this is a learning lesson because your neighbor did or two guys down the street did, okay? We're all cleaning this up because it's a lesson learning. I'm locking it. I'm padlocking it.
First
You're
of all,
not
like,
leaving.
Legally, I don't think a theater can do
Mo,
that.
every parent would agree.
Yes.
No, I'm saying all the parents are on the outside.
Yeah.
And no parent who's worth their salt is going to let their child out until that place is so clean that each child has to say, I feel confident that I can lick the floor. And that's what I have to say about that.
I have a lot to say about video games that I won't say.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to do it. We've got a long show. I just can't.
Okay.
It'll get me down a rant, and I just can't. I can't.
Okay.
We've had a very long week, and frankly, I just don't even have the energy to say what I feel about people and video games. And
okay, well,
aside from I think that they keep you captive.
Well, this is a sad story.
Oh, okay.
Let's go to the 7
Leah.
News Australia over here. 6 people in the family were in a helicopter. I've said I've never want to go up in a helicopter.
I ain't doing it.
Over in Afghanistan and Iraq, it was always the helicopters that went down. There's no parachuting out of it. I know. You can actually kind of glide a plane down,
right?
But helicopters go down. So 6 killed in a Hudson River helicopter crash.
It was a tour.
And 6 people were killed when a helicopter tour carrying a family of 5 from Spain crashed into the Hudson River on Thursday afternoon. 3 children were on board. Michelle, could you... I
don't really want to play the clip, but I think we should.
Yeah, well, maybe play the 7 News Australia with the commentary over here, the YouTube. It's over here.
Okay.
Over here.
The horrific final moments of the fatal flight. The helicopter falls out of the sky, plunging into the Hudson River. It appears to break apart and flip. Another angle shows the rotor blade close behind.
It sounded like a sonic boom on my right. So I look up and literally I just see a helicopter splitting in two.
I know that the main rotor, like you could see it just spinning and everything.
The helicopter upside down, floating on the surface as crews race for the wreck. There were no survivors.
Aboard the helicopter were 6 people, 1 pilot, 2 adults, and 3 children.
A family of 5 visiting from Barcelona. Augustin Escobar, a Spanish tech CEO, posing with his wife and 3 children moments before takeoff.
We were met by the first responders and they told us they did everything they can to try to save these victims, and you can see the trauma in their face.
The helicopter was a Bell 206. It took off from Lower Manhattan at 2:59 p.m. local time. The Joy flight tracking the island before heading back south, then losing control, tumbling into the Hudson River 18 minutes later.
Well, it appears to me from the video that there was some sort of catastrophic flight control malfunction where the main rotor blade and head and the tail rotor blade assembly departed the aircraft in flight.
The flight's popular with tourists, just a few $100s to view the city's famous skyline. This video will be crucial for investigators to determine what went wrong this time. In the United States, Miley Hogan, 7.
So before you comment, just play the video to the left. It's a little short. I think it's
the pilot's chilling radio call to base moments before plunging into the The pilot's chilling radio call to base moments before plunging into the Hudson River and killing 6 has been revealed. The pilot of the tour helicopter that crashed into New York City's Hudson River warned that they were out of fuel just before the tragedy that killed all 6 on board. Michael Roth, who owns New York Helicopter, which provided the tour, told the Telegraph he called in that he was landing and that he needed fuel, and it should have taken him about 3 minutes to arrive, but 20 minutes later he didn't arrive. The family were on vacation in New York to celebrate the birthday of one of their young daughters, according to Spanish outlet Antena 3. 4 people were pronounced dead at the scene, and 2 others were taken to the hospital, where they succumbed to their injuries, NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch said. The pilot's chilling radio call to base.
Yeah, so I don't feel like there's a conspiracy theory here, but the pilot went down with maybe there was a fuel leak or something. I don't quite know.
I mean, okay, I want to say, I can't say, oh no, I can't say, they got, maybe there's some sort of somebody and they need to be taken out. I don't know. But no, I mean, that's pure conjecture. That's like, that's movie stuff.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I don't ever want to get into a helicopter. There's a reason why I dislike flying. There's a reason why I filled out a legitimate will before I went into one of those tiny Cessnas. Mankind was not designed to go into the air. Like, I just don't believe that. And I'm not saying I'll never fly again. Maybe after the real ID for sure I won't. But listen, cars are dangerous. All of this modern stuff is dangerous. Yes, you can get killed doing anything. Okay. I mean, my grandma died after a bowel movement, but the hospital had pretty much done her in with medical error. But there's just certain things I don't need to do, and flying an airplane is one. So we just pray for the family. God, we just lift up their family and friends, and I just pray that you comfort them and that you will utilize this in any way that you possibly can to draw people closer to you. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
3rd infant surrendered to New Mexico safe haven baby box.
Oh, wow.
3 of them. A newborn baby was surrendered. You can surrender to my house. To a safe haven baby box in Hobbs, New Mexico last week, marking the 3rd surrender since the location opened in May of 2023. I would say, hey, Mom, you come with me. We're going to fix you too so you can take care of your baby. She needs you. Officials said the infant was safely transported to a hospital for evaluation, is now in the custody of New Mexico Children, Youth, and Families Department. Baby boxers, they've been created to deter parents from abandoning their babies in garbage cans, and I like the idea of it, honestly. It's horrible that we have to have it, but honestly, throughout history, you do need it, because historically, like in Rome and I think it was even in Ireland they practiced this, and in Rome where it was like if the baby was a girl.
Look at China. I mean,
they would
China has
abandon the
these,
baby
and-
outside.
yeah.
It's called something we talked about on our show right before St. Patrick helped save Ireland. You just the babies would just be abandoned outside. I don't want this baby. Just abandon it.
Yeah,
you know?
at the church.
No, well, just outside.
Well, yeah.
It would just be they wouldn't go to a church. There were no churches.
Yeah, that's true.
They just
yeah.
abandon the babies outside and just it's called what is it called? Exposure.
Oh yeah,
Infant
yeah, 100%.
exposure.
Yeah.
And they would just die of exposure, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of exposure, baby chicks. Got to make sure we got them put away. Do you want me to do it, or you
no,
want to do
I
it?
think. Well, Patriot Geller might need to come help me, but we'll see.
We've got 3 baby
Hopefully, the
chicks.
one learned how to go. It was only the one
that didn't know how
that
to go.
didn't make it yesterday.
She was little. She's awful little.
Did you put the ladder up?
I didn't take it down. Did you take?
Well, when you opened the door.
I didn't do it. Maybe Matt did.
Did you open the door today for the chicks?
He must have. So let's see if it's there. As a father and first responder, this is the alternative we want to see. 3 mothers have selflessly used this location now in under 2 years since the box was blessed and available for parents in crisis. We are pleased to see this community turn the tide on infant abandonment. So that's speaking of infants, we've had 3 baby chicks hatch out. Now, what happened in our case, we have not had very much luck with moms the past few times sitting on their eggs long enough and in the right temperatures for the chicks to develop properly. In the past, we've had moms hatch out chicks. In the past, I would say 5 broody hens when a chicken decides to sit on eggs and they just want to lay on these eggs. There has to be a certain temperature kept and moisture and humidity level. So as this hen decides to sit, it has to be kept warm and then moist. And for some reason, this chicken didn't hatch out any of her own. But I will tell you what we decided is we didn't want a mom to go without baby chicks again. So immediately when we saw her sitting on eggs, she sat under our deck for a month, 21 days. We have an incubator, and we took about 14 of our other eggs, and we incubated them, and about 6 or 7 developed. And out of those developed eggs, 4 hatched, 1 died, but 3 are alive. And they're so cute, and she loves her babies. And we have this little rabbit hutch that the mom is in with the babies, and it's close enough to the ground, just a foot off the ground, that the babies can climb this little. Did they put all themselves to bed? No.
I had to get the one.
The little black one?
Yeah, she was still out.
Where was she, though?
Just
was she
huddled
close to
behind the back, one of the back legs of the.
But you
chicken
got
thing.
her.
I got her. Yeah,
Okay.
she was all. I think she was tired and cold.
Oh, okay.
It's fine, but she
Little baby.
curled right underneath the mommy.
Oh, it's so adorable. So
The mommy kind of picked at her, like, "Get under here."
Get on her. Where you been, girl?
Well, she knew where she was because she probably cried for an hour.
Well, we also, Mom said we have a hawk flying overhead.
Yeah,
And
well,
so our
I'm sure
house
that
might
mommy will
look
take care of.
a little funny for a little while because
You're gonna hang this up.
we might need. There's a thing that
You don't think the mommy will protect her chicks?
would try, but once they start to get, we lost baby chicks to hawks
With moms?
Yeah, but
I know
not with moms, but like in a week or two, they're going to be wandering away. So we're going to need a string. If I see the hawk again, Mom thinks that hawks will come in and not get. Actually, we've had some killer hawks last year that got 2. Last year, or the year before, they got 2 full chickens. Normally, they don't get a full hen.
Yeah, I know.
Full-grown hen. This one was a crazy guy in the middle of the day. But if we run this string in our chicken yard, the hawks cannot fly in and out, and then they can get and grow big up. But it's not exactly aesthetically pleasing to look at. So we might wait till our yard sale's over. We'll see. Bombshell report, terrorist watch list, migrants secured Medicaid after being freed into the U.S. by Joe Biden, but they were on a terror watch list.
Wow.
According to DOJ officials, about 6,300 of Biden's migrants paroled into the U.S. interior with no immigration status were either on the terrorist watch list or had criminal records.
No way.
DOJ's report found that 905 of the migrants, including 4 on the terror watch list, had been collecting Medicaid benefits. I don't have any other words on that. I don't want to talk about it. It makes me mad.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not a happy person. Trump cuts to sanctuary city federal funding is coming soon. We had our friend Jennifer Gross, state representative in Ohio, says this is a good deal, good thing happening right now. So he said this on Thursday. No more sanctuary cities.
That's awesome.
And we'll see how this works, because these cities are keeping ICE from collecting these criminals.
Exactly.
They protect criminals, not the victims. They are disgracing our country and are being mocked. We are being mocked around the world, working on papers to withhold all federal funding for any city and state that allows the death traps, he's calling them, to exist. In Boston, the city council passed an updated version of a 2014 sanctuary policy known as the Trust Act. The act prohibits law enforcement officers from honoring an immigration detainer filled by ICE.
Oh, wow.
The policies make locating and arresting illegal aliens facing serious criminal charges in the state more difficult, because ICE needs to work with local officials to help locate people, and it makes it illegal in these cities to work with ICE. During a March hearing with several sanctuary city mayors held by the House Oversight Committee, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu defended her several cities' stance on not helping federal authorities by honoring ICE detainers. In defense of the sanctuary policies in Boston and in an apparent dig at Trump, Wu told the committee, "Our local community knows best, and we can tell you in Boston, over our history, it has not been the word of presidents or kings or presidents who think they are kings that sets what happens. It is our residents." Interesting there. So hopefully we can get a hold of some of these illegal migrants. Now, on the flip side, if you were hoping that Trump would deport people here illegally who don't have a criminal record and they're just here illegally because that's illegal, think again. Donald Trump sketches plan to deport many and recall some migrants for farm and hotel jobs.
Wow.
Recall them. This is interesting. Trump used his cabinet meeting today to outline his plan to recall some of the illegals. Yo, Mexico!
Send us your tires.
We actually like our strawberries at $1.99 and our lettuce pretty cheap. So, we don't want you here legally. There's no pathway for you here to be legally, but could you come back? Some of you. Gosh. And how do you know which ones? You put out the APB. What do you get out of a megaphone? Some of you come back. Some of you don't come back. You know, what about the people who self-deported who were like construction workers? They're like, well, I'm going to be here to pick strawberries. Psych. It's a very big self-deportation operating that we're starting, he told the cabinet, adding, we're going to work with people so that they go out in a nice legal way and go back to their country. We're going to work with them right from the beginning on trying to get them back legally. So it gives them a real incentive to leave. Otherwise, they could never come back. The exit and return process may be 60 days. In a conversation with cosplaying Kristi Noem, we're going to work with farmers that if they have strong recommendations for their farms for certain people, we're going to let them stay in for a while. They're supposed to be the H-1 visas or whatever, whichever visas they are, the work visas. You have to pay $10,000 per worker. And Trump is sidestepping that and work with farmers and go through the process, a legal process. But we have to take care of our farmers in hotels. Hotels. You can't find an American to work and what? Clean a hotel? Are you stinking kidding me? Are you stinking kidding me? You know, various places. You know what I want? The hotel owners to go and clean these hotels where they need the people. You do not need Mexicans to clean hotels. You know, there was a time in you seriously don't need Mexicans to clean hotels. Just pay them more. People will clean. You know how I know? Because all the house cleaners around here are white women. They'll clean your hotels. Just pay them enough. They'll clean. And we're working with you very carefully on that. So Pharma will come with a letter concerning certain people saying they're great, they're working hard. We're going to slow it, deportation and enforcement, down a bit for them. And we're going to ultimately bring them back. They'll go out and they're going to come back as legal workers. I think it's very important. Thousands of people have already self-deported. We have 21 million people that need to go home because they're breaking our laws. So we're encouraging illegal migrant people to register, and we're working on the resources of funding to buy them a plane ticket and send them home. Trump is facing pressure from real estate investors and hotel operators whose stock market wealth slumps when pay raises reduced projected profits. I'm not super worried about this because I'm skeptical anything's going to happen, says Mark Krigorkian, director of the Center for Immigration Studies. For example, he said farmers can import as many farm workers as they wish via the H-2A program, but the H-2B for manual laborers has caps. H-2A is doable because it's an unlimited program, but H-2B has numerable caps, and so there's a limit on how much they can do. But regardless of the practical policies, the proposal is also a bad policy. The president says different things all the time, but if it's applied widely, it makes it much harder for less skilled workers, immigrants or Americans, to bargain for better wages. It also reduces the incentive for employers, farmers especially, to come up with ways of using less labor by, they want technology. I don't want technology. I want us to have low technology. I want less people to be needing to be picking your strawberries. Okay. And actually, Michelle, I have a perfect video to play right now. This, guys, we need to be honoring our farmers, paying people a decent wage who grow your food, and making it so that families can make a living. And here's the Jill Soliton with Epoch Times on growing food for you. Otherwise, it should be cheaper to grow your own food.
There we go.
It should not be more.
Exactly. It's kind of like the same thing with clothing.
So here's our favorite farmer talking about this.
I've been in this space long enough to have watched the natural farming, sustainable farming, organic farming. Now it's regenerative farming. So about every 10 years, the old buzzword wears out, and there's got to be a new one. So again, I get to be the lunatic. So when people say, "What kind of farming do you do?" I like to kind of rattle the cage and say, "Profitable." Well, that's a new concept, profitable farming. So without any government subsidies, by the way, and so I have fun with it. But the basic concept is that you're studying creation's pattern and order, and trying to duplicate that on a domestic scale. So I'll just give you an example. So on our farm, we're asking, what do we notice when we look at animals in nature? Well, they move. They're not confined in houses, in little cubicles with their tails cut off and their, and all this. No. They actually move. So just the idea of moving animals, that choreography, if you will. I mean, think about the Serengeti. What you see is movement. The animals aren't sedentary.
Meaning, like,
that's
they migrate.
One of the things that separates them from
around,
plants.
Like
they move around, and so as soon as you say, well, animals move, okay, now we need to be able to provide shelter for them that's portable. We need to provide water to them that's portable, feed that's portable, and control. Because Starbucks doesn't want our cows down on their parking lot. Okay, so we got to keep them home. And so you have these things that are a natural outgrowth of a simple phrase, animals move. And so our farm's creativity and innovations that we've done, from egg mobiles and gobbledygos and egg and all the things that we've done, have not come because we sat around in a room and had a focus group on how can we be different. Rather it comes from a very strategic understanding. Animals move. Okay, so how do we duplicate that migratory, that movement choreography, and what are the symbiotic relationships? For example, in nature, the wildebeest or the Cape buffalo don't get grubicides and parasiticides. Well, how do they stay healthy? Birds follow them. Birds, the egret on the rhino's nose, they pick out the little bugs and things, and they scratch through the dung and spread that out so the sun can solarize it and it covers more ground. And so we follow our cow herd with eggmobiles, portable chicken houses. The chickens then scratch through the cow patties, eat out the fly larvae, disinfect it for the cows the next time they come through, and you have this very natural cycle. So while the average farm is shooting their cows up with grubicides and parasiticides, we simply collect thousands of dollars worth of eggs as a byproduct of our pasture sanitation program. And so that's the way we duplicate these systems.
I mean, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a couple more. Let's take the cow. I mean, cows are herbivores. But you got to realize that for 20 years maybe, our agriculture experts took farmers like me to free steak dinners to teach us this new way of growing cows, where we grind up dead cows and we cook it, and then we feed that back to our cows in their feedlots. And I looked at this, and as well as other people that think like I do, and we looked around. We said, well, where on the planet do herbivores eat carrion? They don't. They're herbivores. They're plant eaters. They don't eat meat. And so our farm, as well as others like us, didn't buy into that narrative, while the rest of the world did. And 30 years after that, we had bovine spongiform encephalopathy, mad cow. I didn't know that mad cow would happen, in 30 years. But I knew that this was chaos. It was not ordered. It did not comport with any pattern that you could see in nature. And so for me, that was enough. But we have this Jurassic Park mentality in our agriculture elite circles. If you remember the movie Jurassic Park, and the scientist is euphoric over what he's created with these dinosaurs, and they're eating cars and people, mayhem and destroying the planet. And the journalist, who's of course the alter ego in the movie, gets in the face of the scientist and says, "But sir, just because we can, should we?" That's a pregnant question, and that should be asked at every technological advance that we make, because we're really smart. We're made in the image of God. We've got these big brains, okay? And my dad used to say, we're so smart, we can overrun our headlights. In other words, we can invent things that we can't spiritually, emotionally, or physically metabolize. We invent this thing, and then we spend 2 generations trying to figure out how to handle what we invented, the DDT, the monosodium glutamate, the hydrogenated vegetable oil. It would behoove us to come at this gently, and not like a bunch of swashbuckling conquistadors walking into sacred ground. I mean, we've only cataloged and named 10% of the microorganisms in soil. Think about that. Only 10%. 90%, we don't know what they do. We don't know their name. We don't know their function. And yet we come to the soil and said, hey, we'll just put some intravenous synthetic nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, and voila, we'll have food. And suddenly our food is, a quarter as nutritious as it was 100 years ago. Our broccoli's less nutritious. Our carrots less nutritious. And we confine these animals in these factory houses, and suddenly we have this new lexicon. I mean, I can remember very well as a child, we never heard the phrase food allergy. We never heard the phrase, celiac disease, or gluten intolerance, or listeria, pfisteria, campylobacter, E. coli, salmonella. We never heard those words. And I would suggest that lexicon, that new lexicon, is nature's lexicon on its knees, begging us, enough, please. You've disrespected, you've abused us enough. And the question is, are we willing to listen to nature's voice?
Oh, I just love that so much. I love Joel Salatin. I admire him more than I can possibly say. You guys can follow him, The Lunatic Farmer. He has got a blog that he puts out, and you can read it. It's, you know, it's not a regular thing, but he does it when certain things arise, and it pops up in my email, and I love it. And yes, those Kim had asked, are those piggies on his tie? Yes, those are piggies on his tie. I am, you know, so glad to see this conversation hitting mainstream, to hitting, you know, even Epoch Times interviewing Joel on this.
Yeah.
Our food, you know, let that medicine be thy food and thy food be thy medicine.
Yeah.
We have gotten so far from that and so far from being even in touch with our food and what our food is designed by God for. We're supposed to have this intimate relationship. And if you're a Christian and you read the Old Testament, nothing should tell you that more than even just the law.
And you need to understand that, guys, we need more than food. You're supposed to touch it. You're supposed to love it. You're supposed to be in with the Creator when you're making it. And then when you're getting it from people who love God, who are doing things with their hand, connected with God, then you're actually getting those good vibes and that good energy that's coming your way. That's why I encourage you to know your doctor, or to your doctor, which should be your farmer.
Now, let me read a couple of comments before we move on here. Sherry says, as a dentist, I can tell you that technology is my biggest headache. Many labs are going to computer-generated crowns, etc., and they don't do as good of a work as a human. She says, I have been binge watching his farming videos lately. Oh, that's awesome. Let's see. Jim says, it's like what Michael Savage used to say, get rid of welfare and you'll have tons of Americans willing to work on farms. That's actually really true. Biff Mo had asked us, and we might get to this as we get closer in a couple of weeks. I don't know if we're going to do it tonight. We might, to talk about issue 2 here in Ohio. It's more pork spending. It's more, it enables the Ohio legislative, you know, body to do more nefarious means to get money.
From what I understand, they can sell bonds, which keeps it's basically a credit card.
Yeah, exactly.
And with a high interest rate.
Right. So I did want to read this from Barry in the UK. Just take a little time for my own, you know, boost of self-confidence and wonderfulness. I sent Barry for Christmas. It was a little belated. An entire Oil of Joy collection from shop.resistancechicks.com. And he says, Michelle, just got to say, your Lil potions work for selenium poisoning. This is his testimony. I managed to get it from having too many Brazil nuts, and my kidneys hurt like the dickens, but your potions are easing the pain. Thanks. So that's awesome. Praise God for that. Sherry, back to the helicopter, says, the other Sherry Kula in Michigan, this helicopter crash appears very suspicious. Both parents were executives of Siemens. Deal made with Japanese company, signed and agreed to ban all interactions with Israel the day before the crash.
Wow.
I had read a little bit something about that, so I'm glad that you brought that up. Shauna says, we have hawk problems too. It's a thing. It's called nature. And so Sherry,
this is their time.
The dentist had asked, Barry, are you talking about the healing oil, the potions that I sent? He said, yes, and the body butter. So I'm glad that you've been using those and using them on your kidneys and that has been helping. That makes my whole day. So that's awesome. Let's see. 7 Ange says, it sounds like trusting Trump is like walking on a minefield, never knowing when or where a mine will go off. That's very, very true. Let's see. Oh, so yes, Chris had wanted to know, do you know what website that kind of election information can be found at? So Mark Paquita, he ran for Senate in Ohio here for like the senator. And he has the Grassroots Freedom Initiative, and his website is gfiohio.com, gfiohio.com. And there's like a video there on issue 2 that you can go and watch.
His campaign manager, Linda Kelly, actually messaged me or called me this week.
And she was asking us to put that out for you guys. We just haven't had time to get to it because our week has been so busy.
So when we will get that, hopefully we'll get that out. I still have to do my taxes, which I just realized. So
our taxes are done.
And my driver's license, I got to get done. I just got to go get my picture taken.
Whatever you say can and will be used against you in the court of law.
I'm going Monday.
Leah.
All right. If you so here's Trump here. If you move the Palestinians out, you'll have a freedom zone. He met with Netanyahu this week, and Netanyahu is grinning like a Cheshire cat.
He does that. He's really good at it, actually. Here, let's go. We've got Vivid. There, boom. It concerns me how much he likes to grin like that. I'm not gonna lie.
Trump liked to get. I mean, his son is Jewish. What do you expect, man?
His son-in-law and
Well,
daughter.
Son-in-law and daughter.
You know how I feel about the Gaza Strip.
I can't get this very loud.
An incredible piece of important real estate, and I think it's something that we would be involved in. But you know, having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip, would be a good thing. Because right now, all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems. And if you take the people, the Palestinians, and move them around to different countries, and you have plenty of countries that will do that, and you really have a freedom zone. You call it the freedom zone, a free zone, a zone where people aren't going to be killed every day. That's a hell of a place. It's a, you know what I call it, a great location that nobody wants to live in because they really don't. And when they had when they have good living, real living, where Hamas and all of the problems they have, the level of death on the Gaza Strip is just incredible. And I've said it. I don't understand why Israel ever gave it up. Israel owned it. It wasn't this man, so I can say it. He wouldn't have given it up. I know him very well. There's no way. They took oceanfront property and they gave it to people for peace. How did that work out? Not good.
Yeah, you know, this is it's I don't. Let me give a thought together. Joe Rogan went on his program with what's the comedian's guy's name? He was on with Douglas Murray. Is it Doug Murray?
No,
and
James.
No, there were three guys.
Oh, okay.
Doug Murray is the British guy, and he's the one who's representing the pro-Israel side. And then Joe Rogan went on, and it's interesting to see how people went back and forth on the Israel Gaza thing. There is a whole, it's a Joe Rogan, Douglas Murray, and one person said, when it comes to debate, only about 10% of people are swayed. You're literally going to have everybody else, 90%, Dave Smith, rooting for either side. So I decided I didn't really want to play these clips. I didn't feel like there was any bombshell that either of them dropped.
Yeah.
Dave Smith is very much on the Candace Owens, Gazans are dying, they're being blown up, children are dying, and Douglas Murray is on the very neocon-y side of this. But what I have found, my comments have always been, have the Palestinians released the Israeli hostages yet? And nobody answers me. Nobody says anything. And I realize that I don't really exist on Twitter, so that's fine. Except for when I call out Kristi Noem, and to which I got 100 comments back, which was, are you jealous much? Jealous much? Jealous much? No, like zero negative. I feel bad for her. Not the opposite of jealous. You're not acting very Christian. I got a bunch of those. You're judging her. You're not acting like you have a Christian in your bio. Oh, look at you. Oh, my favorite though. This is my favorite. I will tell you my favorite. This is honest.
Are we going to get back to the Israel thing?
Yeah, but I have to give this antidote. My favorite is when they say, oh, and you're not wearing blonde extensions? No, but thanks. And then my second favorite is really, this was my favorite. Oh, yeah, but you, look at you with all of your fake eyelashes and everything and calling the kettle black. And you look fake too. And I was like,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, you just make my day, please. Like that, like if that is your put down, please put me down every day of the week. Every day of the week. Listen, if somebody calls me, and you should take this as a compliment, you have to take this as a compliment. Those are men in drag. I don't care. Because men in drag, they've got smooth skin. They have good facial structure.
They have impeccable makeup and great hair. They're cosplaying a woman, but I will take that every day of the week, because the one that was like, okay, old soccer mom, like, I hate soccer, but whatever. That one, no. But I like that when you say, oh, but you have hair extensions. I don't have a problem. And I said this, I don't have a problem with the spiders on her eyes. I don't have a problem with her hair extensions. I'm just with Megyn Kelly on the not in the field thing. Now, when it comes to the Joe Rogan people and the anti-Israel people, my question is, have the hostages been returned? And then my next question is, Michelle, if the Palestinians still had how many, let's say, if they even had one, but let's say they had 10 American hostages, every American would say, blow them all up until we get our people back. Whatever you've got to do, you get them back.
I don't think they would.
I know they would. They absolutely would.
Not every American. A lot of Americans would be like, you know what? We deserve it. It's our fault. Just, there's nothing we can do because we deserve it because we've played X role.
I think, you know what?
This.
I don't think so. And this is why. And then we can have a debate on
I've been watching things on Instagram about people defending squirrels in the womb, baby squirrels in the womb of squirrels, and saying, listen, I have to defend the squirrel, but I just can't stand up for babies in a human.
Let me explain how.
I'm telling you, there's crazy people out there.
Let me explain how media works. And you can agree with me or not.
I disagree.
You didn't let me finish.
I don't care.
If we had hostages, Americans.
Yes.
Those faces would be plastered all over America, and MSNBC and CBS and CNN and Fox News would be playing them and their faces and their families and interviewing them, just like they're doing in Israel. The reason why it's disconnected is because those are Israelis, and a lot of people hate Israelis, and a lot of people have Jews.
We had American citizen hostages that were held by the Palestinians, and people still protested.
They were Jewish.
It doesn't matter. Okay, but they were American citizens.
But they were in Israel, living in Israel, dual citizenship. If they were full on American citizens and they went into New York City,
I'm telling you that this thing is a mind worm.
That's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying, because it's about the Jews. It wouldn't matter. But it's about the Jews. It's all about the Jews. It's about nobody else. You notice that nobody cares about what's happening to Christians in Nigeria with their heads being cut off?
That's what I'm saying. These people don't care about anything.
But they pretend to care about the Gazans.
They care about the Gazans, and they care about Palestinians.
If the Palestinians came to America, raped, kidnapped, and brutalized, what would happen is the American media would flip, and the people go with the majority. Lemmings lemming.
I'm just saying. I don't think that they now, I bet stuff like that happens, and they don't even put it in the media.
Okay. I'm gonna say this one more time. I'm gonna try to put it in perspective.
I get the point that you're
not trying to. You don't get it.
Yes, I do.
There is a group of people that are controlling, and I believe it has to do with money and Muslims and darkness, okay, that are controlling, and I believe a Candace Owens and Andrew Tate, I believe they're being paid to mind worm people. Okay, on this specific issue.
I agree with that.
Now, I don't believe that you would be able to do that or get them over. I believe they would lose all credibility if it was American. I think it has to do with the Jews. I believe there is such a hatred and a demonic thing going on that is very specific.
I think we're talking about two different things.
To a Jewish-Muslim deal. And I think that if the Palestinians came after Americans, it would be like 9/11 all over again.
Okay, pause. I'm talking about within the context of what is happening right now. So you're, I think, talking about something separate and outside of the context. If just randomly Palestinians had randomly kept United States hostages and it has nothing whatsoever to do with the war in Palestine, then people would be in an uproar, and I would agree with you. What I'm saying is, if there were to be whatever you want to differentiate between Jewish American hostages and American hostages, whatever. If there were people that were involved or had something to do, maybe they're just Americans over in Israel at the time, and these Palestinians are taking them hostage as just Americans as part of the Palestinian war that's going on right now. I don't think that the media or Candace Owens or anyone else out there is going to say, look at what the Palestinians are doing. This is wrong. I've said all of this up until now, but this crosses the line. They're really going to stand there and they're going to say, I'm sorry for those families, but they're going to bring it back to the Palestinians have to do what they have to do. They have no other choice because of XYZ, and this is America's fault. They will shift the blame of something that they don't like an American hostage being taken, and then they won't blame the Palestinians. They won't blame Hamas. They will turn it back and blame Israel and the United States for the fact that Americans got kidnapped. That's what I was trying to say. They will twist it. They will spin it somehow. They're not going to care whether it's an American or not because these people are heartless and they really don't care about anything.
Okay. And so
it's a mind
I
worm.
don't want to go down the darkness. And so forgive us if we did. The darkness of these people who are pro-Palestine, anti-Jew is so evil that I will report on this. But I am not going to give it any more airtime or breath. I don't have the God answer on this right now. I'm just reporting it. And it's so hateful that we cannot be hateful. We cannot. They're pretending like they are returning hate with hate. I hate Israel because of what they're doing to the Gazans. But when I hear them speak, they're filled with hate. So I can't hate them for hating because it's just it's another cycle of hate and
I don't
anger.
have any hate. I'm just saying you're crazy. Y'all crazy. It's crazy all around. Both sides are crazy.
I think that it's not crazy to want your hostages back, and I feel like the Gazans and the Palestinians are purposefully keeping this going, and that's what I think.
I think Israel's got their own awful part to play in it too, so it's like tit for tat.
Awful part. They have gone over and beyond. Some people say, but this is what I was trying to say. Pretend there's not Palestine and Gaza. Just pretend, put them aside. If any country or any group of people had 50 American hostages and had come in and killed 1,000 people,
I already made that
you'd
point for you.
carpet bomb them and no one would care about children dying.
I made that point
So
for you.
here's the thing. I don't have a lot to say. I don't care. You've got hostages. You did a bad thing. Let the hostages go. And then I will talk and then I can be on your side. But if this was a retaliation, that they're acting like it's retaliation.
Yeah, we can't make their points for them. I'm sorry. I could though. They say it is retaliatory because of what Israel does and because Israel is oppressive and all of the things. That's what they're saying. They're saying that overall, it's not a military retaliatory thing. It's just, generalized
Guess
retaliatory.
what? You don't get to do with civilians, but then
the fact that Israel exists is their reason for quote unquote retaliation.
All right. Well, tariffs. Jasmine Crockett, who everybody kept saying, what about Jasmine Crockett? She suggests the United States need illegal immigrants because we done picking cotton.
What? Wait a minute. What just happened here?
Are you screen sharing?
I am.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
I know that's right.
So I had to go around the country.
So what you're saying is,
I'd rather have Mexican slaves.
You would like to have your own slaves, Jasmine. We're not going to do that work. We want another menial people to do it.
We're done picking cotton. We want the Mexicans.
And we want it cheap.
So insane. These people are so insane. All right. Speaking of insane, we're going to talk about the market here a little bit because, yeah, I got a couple more things here. I want to play this clip
Again.
Yeah, people didn't join us, and people didn't watch our special on the markets ups and downs. To give you a overview, the markets were tanking. They started last week tanking on worried about the implementation of the tariffs. The tariffs went into effect Tuesday at 12 midnight, and the market started to tank immediately, and the market's been down. Markets around the world have been down. On Tuesday, it was floated around that there would be a 90-day pause. Markets went up for a brief minute. Trump came back and said, no, we're doing these tariffs. The next day, he tweets out at 9:37. I'm going to remember that number forever. I have no idea. It's like stuck in my head. It's a great day to buy in the stocks. 215. Again, I don't know how I know these numbers. He comes out with a 90-day pause. Stock market has the biggest one-day move in history. And people made millions and billions of dollars on what I would call insider trading. And Trump is congratulating Charles Schwab for making $2.5 billion on Trump's insider trading here.
This is Charles Schwab. It's not.
Hang on.
Not just a company, it's actually an individual. And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million. That's not bad. He's in financials. I've always been following.
So there were some people, I believe, who made some big choices. And people will say, but Leah, Trump told you to buy some stocks. If Trump told me to put my shoes on and tie them, that doesn't mean because he's God and he's speaking something in me, tie your shoes today. No one in their right mind when the stock market is going down is just going to buy stocks because it sounds, Trump also said today's inflation is going down. Well, guess what? I have a bridge to sell you and I don't own that bridge. Okay, you don't get to lie to me. You don't get to lie to me. He literally has this out. You can see this. Inflation is down, he said yesterday morning. That's a lie. And then you want to know what happened yesterday morning, Thursday morning? Stock market goes down again. Why? What does that mean? A bunch of people who jumped in on Trump's announcement, they sold high, and then other people are down again. All right. So before I go into what's happening in the markets, I want to play this video from let's see, his name is Chamath
Palihapitiya.
And he says something that is highly concerning to me about access to the president.
This is one thing I'll tell you about the Trump administration, which is totally different. Okay, I was a lifelong Democrat. Okay, I was a mega donor to the Democrats. Like dinner with Obama level donor. Okay, I couldn't get a fucking phone call returned from the White House to say
how many more of those are in here?
I don't think very many.
We can play it, but I'm so sorry. We tried to be a family-friendly show, and we try not to have curse words on our show, but Leah can't curate everything, and I apologize.
My life. The only thing that happened to me was I made an off-color comment about like something in China, and I had the Biden administration like basically say something, like essentially put out a press release basically saying I was like, mean. That's all I got for millions of dollars. That, you know what I mean? Like,
for being honest.
I mean, I was like, hey man, there's like a lot of problems in America. Like, talk to me about the fentanyl crisis before we talk about everything else. Anyways, the Trump administration is totally different. There's not a single person there you can't get on the phone and talk to. I'll give you an example of this. A friend of mine's company was really impacted with these tariffs in a bad way, okay? This is like a really amazing, legitimate American business, 150-year-old business, family-owned, all this stuff. And I was able to call the deputy chief of staff and I said, hey, can you talk to the CEO? And just so here on the ground, he's like instantly putting me on the phone. You know, my wife runs a pharmaceutical business. And, you know, we wanted to make sure that the administration understood like all the implications for rare diseases and orphan drugs. What happens if these tariffs like cripple the R&D budgets? Because there's 30 million Americans with rare diseases. Rare disease means it's not like diabetes or cancer. Yeah. It's like 200,000 people or less. But there's 30 million of these Americans. 2/3 are kids. And the only companies that work on such small markets are these small biotech companies. And the tariffs create a lot of uncertainty. We were able to talk to all of them. They were like, explain the issue. I want to understand it. So this is what's also totally different, which I really give them a lot of respect. They are willing to debate it with you. You can pick up the phone and talk to these people. I've never had that experience, guys. I mean, look, I was like a senior person at Facebook, could never get a meeting. I only met Obama once when he came to the thing. Then when I was running an investment fund, successful, I had dinner with Obama, but it was, you know, under the purposes of should I donate to the foundation? You know, I've donated millions of dollars to Democrats. I've never been to the Oval.
That is salty.
Okay? But the minute it's like here, it's like, hey, come to the White House, explain these issues now. You get on a plane, you get over there, and they're like, explain it. And then they'll debate it. That's like, it's totally different.
Sorry, devil's advocate, should being a mega donor, I mean, I guess I get your point of view, but couldn't it also just be like, no, we're not going to be biased just because a person donated money. We're not going to just answer the phone whenever he calls.
You think I was like, you know, stupid 5 years ago and all of a sudden tried to like start to build national champions like now?
Yeah.
Dude, man, I've been in the grind for fucking 25 years here, paying my taxes. I fucking paid, you know, more than most people.
So this guy is a billionaire. And his name, this Chamath guy, he's a venture capitalist and a prominent figure in tech and finance. Has trying to figure out, I was trying to get an idea of who he is. He is known for working, shoot, I had a, who is not a lot going on here. I know he worked with Facebook. After leaving Facebook, he founded Social Capital with his then wife. The firm initially operated as a traditional venture capital fund, investing in companies including Yammer, acquired by Microsoft for $1.2 billion, Second Market, Slack, acquired by Salesforce for $27 billion, and Swarm, acquired by SpaceX, Grok, and Box. So he's only 48 years old. He's a billionaire. His wife is a billionaire. And what he is saying is that the thing about the Trump administration is you can buy access. And even Elon Musk was excited because for $25 million, he could gain a seat at the table. And that goes along with the $5 million gold cards. And this guy thinks that he's super smart because he's made a lot of money, and that because he's made a lot of money, then he should be able to speak. And he's probably one of those reasons that Trump pulled back and done his 90-day pause.
Mm-hmm.
And to save himself money and his investors money.
When the billionaires are the ones that have access to Trump. Like, he's like, this is so amazing.
And he said, I was a Democrat. And then I realized that if I want, and this is exactly what happened with Woodrow Wilson in the election, where Carnegie, Rockefeller, and J.P. Morgan, they were enemies, but they were like, there was Williams Jennings Bryan was a Christian, and he was a Democrat, and he wanted a trust bust. He said, I'm coming for you, Carnegie. I'm coming for you, Rockefeller. I'm coming for you, J.P. Morgan. And so what they did is they bought a Republican. They said, I need to get a president. I don't care what party he is. And this is why traditionally Republicans have been the party of business, okay, because they're easily bought by the business. And the Democrats were supposedly the party of the people. They were able to convince the people. This was the election with Williams Jennings Bryan. So it wasn't the Woodrow Wilson election. This was the William McKinley election with Williams Jennings Bryan. And they bought the other presidency too, so it's hard to keep track of them all. They bought the one with Woodrow Wilson, and they actually split the vote there. They brought Teddy Roosevelt back to run against William Howard Taft, and they split the vote on the Republican side, and they got a Democrat. They don't care who they have in office. They just need to have somebody. So what this guy is saying is, I want a seat at the table. And he kept trying to get a seat at the table. He kept trying to get a seat at the table. He's a billionaire. And because of all the fake dollars, there was more billionaires back in the day. There was only 2 or 3. There's only 3. And so then they could control. But then when they create all the fiat dollars, especially since COVID, there's like 1,000 new billionaires, and they all want a seat at the table. So then Sundar Pichai and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos, they recognized that precedent was set in the election of 1906, and then again with Woodrow Wilson, it was 18 something, and then in 1906, and then again the next one. And every presidential election after that has been a selection. And I'm going to here to tell you that 2024 Trump was selected by the billionaires because they wanted to be able to speak. And that's why Trump has been turning. He says he wants to do Main Street. He says he wants to bring manufacturing back. But really, he was just listening to a few people. Maybe they did care about us, but these people don't.
And that's the thing that I've been saying, guys. You know, I know everybody's like, no, Trump's for the people. Trump's for the people. Okay, so Abraham Lincoln, people had access to him, literally. Mm-hmm. You could go to the White House and talk to the president if you waited in line.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, this guy is flabbergasted that Trump will listen to him. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here also flabbergasted that Trump would listen to him because that is not what I voted for. Obviously, I didn't vote for Trump in 2024, but I did in 2020. Mm-hmm. And I voted for a man that would listen to the people, not the billionaires. And so what Trump has done is Trump made a deal. And I know he did. He made a deal with the big billionaires that if I get in office in 2024, you will have a seat at the table, you will have access to me, and I will listen to what you have to say. And Trump has carried that out. And so that means that Trump is not being a man of integrity and character and what he believes. And that's why I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Faith Gal says, seems like he is double-minded in his ways. Very sad. Well said. Sherry says, if I had millions of dollars, I certainly wouldn't be donating to politicians. Talk about throwing away money. You know, you're a little bit different. It's not throwing away money. It's actually brilliant.
It helps
it's
them to make
perfect.
more money.
It does help them to make more money. I'm going to read a couple of comments over here on Facebook. Alex says the Federal Reserve allowed for 40% of gold as reserve, which was criminal. Alice says rumor was that, quote, Shifty made some, quote, calls and lost tons of money. Alex says the Federal Reserve System, its purpose and functions since 1939 states that there's 40% of gold as reserves. Well said.
All right, so let's go over here to the Zero Hedge article, and gold soared. I'm talking another $200 an ounce days. Absolutely crazy.
Elizabeth says she got your message, Leah. She's watching live on Facebook.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
She and her daughters came to our yard sale today.
All right. So message me if you would like the tickets, Elizabeth. If you guys want to go up to Columbus tomorrow.
Yeah, shoot me a text.
If you guys want to go.
Or you can message us here on Facebook too.
Awesome. I'm glad you found us. The dollar plunged below 100 for the first time since 2023, and it is collapsing. It's on its way down. The dollar's down. It's decoupling from gold, and gold hit historic highs. Michelle, when you bring up this article, you can see this chart. And gold is up, I think, $600 just since January, an ounce, just since January. This fiat carnage of the dollar, you can see this. Actually, this is the dollar index. And first, let's show them the dollar index, which is the absolute crash of this dollar index here. And amid the fiat carnage, gold soared to a fresh new record high. What does that mean? It means that countries, people in the know, they're going towards the safe haven of gold.
I can't get it small
But
enough.
the craziness about this, and I am going to kind of warn you guys, I've noticed that the gold bug people are getting a little greedy with how they're explaining how to do gold to people. They're telling people right now to buy gold miner stocks because gold in the ground is cheaper right now and decoupled from physical gold.
Yeah.
So you can actually, if you're going to gain $100 or $200 an ounce, which is just a percentage of an ounce, they're saying that they believe that gold miners stocks are stocks, by the way. They're not actually physical gold. Are about 4 or 5 times undervalued.
So what you can't see with this dollar index that Leah had me pull up here is there's a red line with an arrow at the bottom, and it points all the way back to July of 2023. That low dip there is the dollar index. And then on the far right, you see we had these giant highs in January, February, and March of
When Trump was
2025.
inaugurated.
And now in April, we have sunk to July of 2020.
These are connected to the bond market, and I'm going to give you a very simple overview of what that looks like. I might have Taylor Kennedy do that from ITM Trading. But this is all the signal here is that the world is not trusting the American dollar.
Right.
And it's losing its value.
And you may not know, and you should know if you watch our show, that it is only the faith, because it's a fiction, the faith in this fiat dollar that keeps it from crashing. And when people lose faith in the dollar,
If we become Argentina.
Yeah.
All right. So now, if amid this fiat carnage, gold soared to a fresh record high, and even Bitcoin is starting to catch a bit, even though Bitcoin is down 30%. Even as the algorithms slowly but surely realize that if the dollar is no longer the world's reserve currency, then every other fiat currency is worse than the dollar, and then So there was trading is so volatile. I'm not going to go over these numbers, but I'm going to go down to China announced it would raise tariffs on all U.S. goods from 84% to 125% and warned that it plans to resolutely counterattack and fight to the end if the U.S. continues to infringe on its rights and its interests. If China, which has about $900 billion in U.S. debt, which is known as treasury bonds, if China sells and sells and sells, somebody is selling treasury bonds in massive quantities, causing the interest rate on the U.S. treasury bonds to go up. Now, if you don't know much about treasury bonds, they are paid you get interest rate. There's an interest rate in treasury bonds, and our U.S. government, basically, we're in 36, I think, $36 trillion in debt. People, you can own these, but it's mostly big investors and mostly nations, and they go to the U.S. treasury bonds because it's supposed to be a guaranteed income, and you get a biannual percentage of about between 3.5%, maybe 4%. Those percentage points go up. They don't go up high. They don't go up quickly. And if a 0.1% increase in interest rates on our treasury bonds out, I believe they said is $26 billion extra that we pay, that the government will pay
in interest.
So that's how much imagine your credit card, okay, and your credit card would go up, let's say 10% in interest, okay? That's kind of what a 1% basis point would do to what we have to pay out to people who buy these bonds. When the bond market is good and kind of strong, the U.S. doesn't pay out high interest. It's a low interest safe haven. Okay, it's not a reckless place. It's certainly not a reckless place for the United States. They don't want to pay out too much in interest, but it's a place where you can park your money and get a bi-yearly interest payment. And then at the end of, if it's a 10-year or 20-year or 30-year, you get the face value. Now, I was kind of researching this through Grok last night. What's the difference between a treasury bond and a savings bond? Well, a savings bond, if you buy it, it's usually a 20 or 30-year savings bond. If you try to cash out a savings bond, which is guaranteed to double at the end, like a 20-year savings bond, my Aunt Stella had gotten us some when we were young, guaranteed to double. If you pull that and you try to cash that in early, you suffer some major penalties. You're supposed to hold that on for the life of it. With the treasury bonds, there's no penalties, okay, but it doesn't double at the end. You get interest by yearly. And if you're just counting the interest and the face value of, let's say, a 20-year treasury bond versus a 20-year savings bond, the savings bond, let's say if you put in $2,000, you'll have $4,000 when you're done. With a treasury bond, if you're just getting interest payments and then the face value, you're going to be more at like 3,400 if you're dealing with like a 4% or less interest rate. Why does this matter? These guys play these games, and these interest rates matter because then they go and they take their interest. They take their interest, accrued interest, and then they reinvest. And so a treasury bond is much more lucrative if you take and reinvest, take and reinvest, take and reinvest. So that's what governments do. And then people wonder, when we're talking about the U.S. debt, I feel like nobody's really said this to me because I don't think they want us to understand. The treasury bonds are the U.S. debt. Okay? And when people are leaving, this is what Grook said, you've got a lemonade stand and you're selling cups of lemonade and you're offering people cookies to go with your lemonade. Now, if a lot of people come and rush your table, you don't have to offer many cookies to get people to come get your lemonade. But if not a lot of people are there, you have to keep offering more and more and more cookies, and that's more and more and more money. So with the Trump tariffs, people and countries are retaliating and against the United States, and they're selling their treasury bonds, which you can't really sell you certainly can't sell on the open market, a savings bond, but the treasury bonds are designed, but you have to go through a broker, and it's really, you go through all these, systems, but somebody's selling, which means the more you sell, the more cookies you have to offer, which is the more interest you have to pay, which the crazy part is Trump is looking at getting a, let's say $250 billion in tariff fees. Well, if those treasury bonds are the interest on the treasury bonds are going up because people are selling them, then it wipes out all of the gains that the United States would have gotten in the first place. And then the world right now, and I'm going to play a video here from Peter Schiff. The world is uncoupling from the United States. We've talked about this, and the dollar. So what we have been doing is the United States has been living on credit, big credit, big credit. And our standard of living has been higher than the rest of the world. And the rest of the world says, we will make your Nikes, we'll make your stuff. You just keep the world kind of a balanced, safe place. The world will be liberated while we will kind of suffer. So let's go over here.
I want to also just explain this because it can be a head scratcher and, very confusing. So what Leah just explained to you, I would like for you all to put your credit card hat on for just 1 second. And, we love to talk about the budget, and we don't want to, we talk about the pork spending and all of the things that cost the U.S. taxpayer dollars more and more money. And one of the things that we don't talk about very often, ever, it's never talked about. I've never heard Thomas Massey talk about it. That doesn't mean that he hasn't. It's just never been big enough that I've heard him talk about it, is these types of decisions that Trump himself is making. This is not going through Congress. This is not going through the Senate. These types of decisions are being made by Trump that add billions of dollars in just the interest owed on our debt, to our debt. So it's not just funding, gender research studies on geckos in another country. Okay. That is pork spending that we need to get rid of. But what is hurting the United States, I would say more than even that pork spending of gender research studies of geckos in another country, is the interest that we are paying on the debt that we already have. And so that's something that needs to be addressed while we're talking about Doge and all of these things. Like, we're in debt
as a nation, and we are paying massive interest rates. And so one of the reasons why we had this big boom and this big surge is because China and Japan and I think another country bought a bunch of US bonds. Okay, they just bought them. And so the United States, then our interest goes down, what we have to pay out, because they're buying them, and that's great. And then the markets boom, like, oh, look. So you have to understand that this game that's being played right now is so confusing, and all the blame is trying to be put on all of the wrong things. And so it's like, okay, you know what? Yes, stop spending when you're in debt, U.S. government. But also now we need to talk about these interest rates and what America is paying on. And the thing is that what made the markets boom? You know what made the markets boom? It was essentially as if the United States was handed like more credit. Like, ooh, here's more credit. And now the markets will boom because the United States has more money, the fake money, just credit. It's not real money. You got to pay that back. And then at some point, rates are going to expire. They're going to sell these things off. And then boom, you're up at your variable rate of 24.5% APR. It's disgusting. It's vile. And it's not how governments operate. And the price of the dollar maintained exactly where it was supposed to be, aside from a couple of blips, including the Civil War, from the foundation of our nation until 1913 at the inception of the Federal Reserve, and it maintained that same exact value because those blips in between with war was when we got into debt and we started incurring interest and we started playing the we need to borrow money game. And then we got that under control and we were able to maintain that same standard. Inflation did not exist from 1776 until 1913, except for a couple of blips. You have to understand what they've done to us. Everyone wants to say that inflation is a naturally occurring thing. It is not. It is a lie. It is the silent tax that our government puts on the back of the United States people. And so every time you go to the grocery store, you can blame your government because they have a spending problem.
So when I read this, I don't know if I've retweeted this. You can see this from Zero Hedge. All right. So think of what happened this week as a chain reaction that's been happening that we've been seeing in the markets.
And I don't mean to sound so angry.
When Trump first announced the big tariffs, it scared investors. So what happened? People sold their stocks and the stocks went down. They rushed to the safety of the US dollar and the dollar went up. And the Chinese currency took a hit. The yuan went down. At the same time, some big hedge funds that had borrowed tons of money to make tiny profits on treasury bonds. They literally borrowed the money to make profits on the treasury bonds. Got into trouble and they had to sell their positions. This pushed bond prices down and yields up. Remember, bond prices and yields move in opposite directions. Then comes the second part of the chain reaction. China, which owns a lot of U.S. government bonds, appears to be selling some of them in response to the tariff. When a big owner sells, prices drop and yields rise even more. But here's the twist. Now the dollar is falling instead of rising. That's unusual and suggests investors might be worried about U.S. assets specifically, not just looking for safety. What does this mean for your investments? First, it's a reminder that everything is connected in ways that aren't always obvious. Second, it shows why having different types of investment are important. The big question is whether something will happen to break this cycle. Now, Michelle, would you go over here? I'm going to play a little bit of Taylor Kennedy from ITM Trading on 2 days ago and explain that the Fed is prepping a $2 trillion bailout for hedge funds.
It's Kenny.
Kenny. I would say Kennedy. Yeah, sorry.
And the Fed is eyeing a multi-trillion-dollar injection just to stop the bleeding. But if this spiral continues, we could see mortgage rates rise, retirement counts disappear, and even bank bail-ins threatening you and your financial security. So how did the safest asset in the world, U.S. Treasuries, become the epicenter of systemic risk? What does this fallout mean for you and your financial future? And most importantly, how can you use this knowledge to protect yourself before it's too late? Let's get into it. In case you missed it, last week I reported on a massive vulnerability in the U.S. Treasury market that almost no one is watching, the hedge fund basis trade. Now, it sounds boring, safe almost, to exploit tiny price differences between U.S. Treasuries and futures. But here's the problem. They're doing it with massive amounts of borrowed funds. We're talking 10-to-1 leverage or more. These hedge funds, they're betting hundreds of billions on what should be tiny, stable spreads. In fact, these hedge funds now hold roughly $1 trillion of U.S. Treasury securities, meaning that they account for 11% of the entire market alone. So if they're forced to unwind, the exposure could balloon upwards of $8 trillion. Now, typically, when the stock market plunges, we see money flood into bonds as a safe bet. But this past week, we've been seeing the opposite.
Let me explain something to you, Lucy. These people have borrowed, we don't know from whom, $1 trillion. So, and in that, they're buying bonds, which is the U.S. borrowing from them.
Opposite a bond market sell-off, causing a lot of volatility. And for these highly leveraged funds, any small shift is dangerous, but this kind of volatility is deadly. So who is selling and causing all of this? Well, this is where the plot thickens. See, as trade war tensions with China grow, it is the lenders behind the hedge funds, these large financial institutions, who are getting spooked about being paid back. So they are pulling liquidity from the hedge funds. They are saying, no more, we're not going to roll over these loans, and they're issuing margin calls, essentially demanding that the hedge funds put up more collateral. And as you can guess, these over-leveraged hedge funds, they just don't have it. So what are these hedge funds doing? They're initiating their own doom loop. They're scrambling to raise cash by selling off the only asset they have left, U.S. Treasuries. Yes, that's right. The safest asset in the world, U.S. Treasuries, is being dumped en masse by hedge funds. But this wave of forced selling, well, it's creating something we have seen before, systemic risk. The same phrase that prompted the 2008 bank bailouts, except this time, it's not banks, it's hedge funds. And this time, instead of $700 billion, we could be staring down a multi-trillion-dollar bailout. Don't believe me or don't think it's going to happen? I'll prove why it's not only possible, but very likely. First, 2 weeks ago, before Treasury yields spiked, financial experts and insiders were already urging the Fed to create a hedge fund bailout tool, meaning this crisis wasn't a surprise, it was anticipated, and in their minds, they already have the answer, the solution, a bailout. Second, this already happened in 2020 when margin calls hit Treasury futures, the same thing that's happening right now. What happened? The Fed stepped in and pledged trillions. We already know how this plays out. Third, if you want hard proof that something is breaking right now, that it's not just temporary volatility, all you have to do is look at the SOFR spread, the secured overnight financing rate, a key indicator in measuring bond market stress. When it drops, it means banks are panicking, liquidity is drying up, and we are in trouble. Let's look at it together. You can see right here that spread drops to a record low, meaning that the system is seizing up. In simple terms, money is not flowing. Institutions are dumping even high-quality assets just to raise cash. This chart alone shows us that this system is screaming things are not okay. But here's the scariest part. The unwind has only just begun, and the Fed, they're cornered. Either way, we lose. If they choose to bail out hedge funds, well, we already know how that plays out. Inflation will skyrocket, and it will be you and I who pay, while those who were reckless with their debt will walk away untouched. But if the Fed waits too long, it puts the entire Treasury market at risk. The Treasury market, which is the underpinning of the global financial system. It would make what happened this past week in the stock market look like nothing. We could expect to see a serious crash. 401ks, retirement plans, IRAs, all that are tied up and rely heavily on bonds, those would all be seriously impacted. We could see credit freeze, businesses fail, and of course, inflation leading to hyperinflation, meaning the cost of everyday living would go through the roof. And yet, that's not even the worst part, because there is one more consequence of this that could change our lives forever. Now, zoom out with me for a second and look at the United States on a global level. It's no secret that for years, nations have been reducing their reliance on the dollar and moving away from dollar reserves. I talk about this all of the time, but now something has changed. Instead of slowly reducing their holdings or slowly buying less, it's almost as if these nations have been given a green light to stop buying U.S. Treasuries, that maybe, just maybe, there are safer options out there, and for once, they don't have to fear retaliation from the United States. And stay with me on this one because it ties directly to U.S. banks and your savings. Now, the U.S. government, they sell U.S. Treasuries at auction to finance the debt. Debt that, as we all know, is costing us over $1 trillion annually just on the interest. But what happens when demand for that debt drops? The government has to raise rates to attract new buyers, making the debt even more unsustainable. And that's exactly what just happened. This week, a U.S. Treasury auction saw shockingly weak demand from investors. But when foreign buyers don't step up, guess who is forced to? U.S. banks. This week, U.S. banks bought a whopping 20.7% of total auctioned debt, meaning two things. Number one, global confidence in the United States and the U.S. dollar is weakening. Number two, U.S. banks are now forced to hold all of this unwanted risk. But here's where it gets personal. When banks are forced to buy up all of these treasury bonds, well, what happens when the value drops or volatility increases? Now these banks are sitting on massive unrealized losses, something we've already seen that we cannot afford to get worse. These are the same institutions that are supposed to be protecting our deposits. And under the current rules, it's not the government who's going to be forced to save these banks anymore. No, it's you. Under Frank Dodd, it's you and me and everyday Americans whose finances can be used to plug this hole. Ask yourself, if treasury demand keeps collapsing and banks are forced to keep buying, how safe are your funds in your bank really? And before someone else...
Okay, so what are you going to do? I highly recommend you buy gold and silver. I think silver is making its move, and I do think it's going up. I do think that you're going to see it more as an investment, which I don't recommend it as an investment, but you will see it as that. You can go to Lynette Zhang. You can go to Zhang Enterprise. You can go to resistancechicks.com/God's Money, and you can have a consultation if you want somebody to walk you through buying gold and silver. If you just want to throw a heck of a lot of money at it, then you can just go to ST Bullion. Anything you get is going to be better than not having it. And that's what I have to say about that. So we have partnered with Lynette. She can help you walk you through those things. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. There's a reason why gold right now keeps hitting historic highs.
It's because it's not that gold is hitting historic highs.
It's decoupling. They're getting a divorce.
It's that the
dollar
is
is completely divorcing from
it's just going into
these
nothing.
solid assets. Now, I had promised you guys a clip here from John Rich. And I'm hoping YouTube, but maybe we just say goodbye to YouTube real quick because I don't want to get a COVID.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
I don't want to get a COVID strike. But if you guys on YouTube, I love you guys. If you want to see this John Rich clip on him explaining how he got Trump to stop talking about the jabs, I just don't want it to cause a thing. So
so before we say goodbye to YouTube, a couple of announcements, and this will be announcements for the show because we're going to sign off here shortly. We did an interview with my chiropractor, Dr. Jack Hendricks, this week, and the live stream...
I'm going to let you finish the show with this.
Okay, great. Okay. And the live stream failed multiple times. I don't know why. It was an attack from the devil. And it was one of the best interviews that we've done. It was in person in my chiropractor's office, and it was so full of the power of God. So if you missed the Outliers from Monday, please go back and watch it. It's available on Rumble. Look for the full HD version. It doesn't have any cuts in and out of it. So very, very excited about that interview. So please don't miss that. We did do a special episode on Trump and the tariffs on Wednesday. We did not do a healing for the fractured soul. However, on Thursday, we were on the Blessed to Teach show just yesterday. It was a phenomenal episode, and we enjoyed being back with Rick and the Blessed to Teach family. They were so gracious, and they prayed for us. And we got a chance to kind of tell a little bit of our testimony and our backstory. And someone had just left a comment the other day, or I think they sent me a message, and they were like, hey, I'm new here, and I'm sure that you guys have told your story before, but I would like to get to know a little bit about you. If maybe you could include that in your episodes from time to time, and maybe we will. But if you're new to Resistance Chicks and you don't really know a lot about us and you want our backstory, just go to Rumble and find the Blessed to Teach channel, Blessed to Teach. And that was just yesterday, streamed live. It was so much fun to be back with Rick and the Blessed to Teach family. And I highly recommend you guys go and watch that. And then also, little Leah, not Leah Faith, but little Leah and her mom, Kim, did an episode of the Revolutionary Revivalist last night that I told them afterwards. I said, I think that might be one of the best episodes you guys have ever done. It was so encouraging, and I can't speak for everybody else, but the message I felt was, very pertinent to me personally, and I received a lot of it from it. So if you guys are not tuned in to the Revolutionary Revivalist, we live stream it on our platform and a few others. every Thursday at 8:45-ish p.m. Little Leah has, she does jujitsu and wrestling. And so her practices usually go late. And so sometimes the 8:45 time gets a little bit fudged, but they pray for people. And little Leah, she's only 16 and she gets these phenomenal messages. And Abigail has had to take a little bit of a sabbatical from the Revolutionary Revivalist. So Leah's mom has stepped in, Kim, and she's such an addition to the show. And I really enjoy it. So I want to recommend you guys go and watch the Revolutionary Revivalist every Thursday, live streaming on our channel, or you can find them on their own channel on Rumble. We live stream there as well. So I wanted to make that little announcement. We will be back on Sunday, I think, for our World News program. If we are not, that means we're still helping Patriot Gallery with the yard sale. We've been doing a yard sale. We did Thursday, we did today, we were doing all day tomorrow. And it's been going very well. And we've had an opportunity to pray with people and to meet new people and have community. And it's been really great. So we've had a lot of fun doing the yard sale. So those are the announcements that I have. I think that is it. So now let's go ahead and we're going to say goodbye to YouTube. I did put the link for Rumble on YouTube. So YouTube, we love you guys. We're glad that we're back. We even had to go through YouTube and then, we actually got the last strike removed, but we still